Chapter 851. The two cheetah-shaped magical beasts were the fastest, pouncing forward like lightning. Their sharp claws grabbed at the small box in Yu Yang's hand. However, tens of meters behind him, there was a magical beast with green skin that looked like a chameleon that stuck out its tongue. That blood-red tongue grew longer and extremely fast speed. Just as the two cheetah-shaped magical beasts were fighting for the box, the long and sticky tongue struck the box, sticking to its target. It flew out 10 times faster than the speed at which it flew out. It retracted back. The chameleon magical beast did not wait for its companions to react and immediately bit the box in its mouth into pieces. Then it chewed on it proudly. It could even speak. "Ha ha, I'm still a little faster. I've already taken the first kill of the newcomers. You guys can fight for the second and third kills." The surrounding magical beasts had different expressions. Some were angry, some were disgusted, some were cold, and some were disdainful. The two cheetahs that rushed the fastest flew into a rage. "By E, you gossipy woman!" The female chameleon swallowed the pieces of the box in her stomach and used her slender claws to pick at the gaps between her teeth. She picked out a small piece of the box from the gaps between her teeth and spat it out. In the end, she let out a sigh. This kid's newborn beast is really too weak. There's almost no feeling of energy entering his stomach. Even if he absorbed all of it, it would only increase his potential a little. You two don't have to be too envious. At most, I'll reluctantly play with you for a few days. If you're willing to cooperate, we can go over there and have a heart-to-heart talk. 1 against 2 won't be a problem at all. Scram, who likes a slippery reptile like you? The two cheetahs were even more furious when they heard this. They looked like they were about to vomit. "I don't like your rotten fur either. Continue playing with your eggs." The female chameleon sneered and spat a mouthful of thick green phlegm on the ground. Just as they were arguing, the magical beast at the side saw that something was wrong. This kid's newborn beast was killed. Why was he still smiling? Was he stupid? At this moment, Yu Yang was indeed smiling. His lips were red and his teeth were white. His smile was as bright as the sun and made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. He slowly retracted his right hand that was holding the box and took out another box from his pocket. This box looked exactly the same as the box that was swallowed by the female chameleon. It was just that the material was different. The previous box was bronze, this one was silver. Why did this kid have another box? If it was not in the previous box, then the newborn beast should be in this box. The female chameleon wanted to stick out her tongue and fight for it again, but this time, one of the two cheetahs on the left grabbed her tongue. The cheetah on the right hurriedly tried to grab the silver box in Yu Yang's hands. Due to the restriction of the Beast Valley's rules, Yu Yang couldn't protect the newborn beast, but no creature could harm him. No matter who it was that wanted to fight over the newborn beast, they couldn't use the master as a threat. They had to aim accurately, or else it would only be a waste of time. Just as the right cheetah was about to grab the silver box, a huge bear rammed into it from behind. Just as the bear was about to bite the silver box, a thick elephant trunk swung over, causing the bear to stumble back. An eagle descended from the sky. However, before Yu Yang could grab the silver box, a rhinoceros with sharp horns cleverly flicked the silver box away before Yu Yang could grab it with his claws. Unknowingly, an ugly swamp crocodile had crawled out from the ground. It opened its huge, sinister mouth that was covered in mud towards the silver box. A black shadow flashed. A long-armed ape grabbed the elephant trunk and swung over. With a nimble jump, it grabbed the rhinoceros' small tail and used it to leap up, dodging the eagle's beak. In midair, it did a somersault and lightly tapped on the rhinoceros' neck. Ignoring the rhinoceros' furious pursuit, it directly passed through the swamp crocodile's huge mouth and grabbed the crocodile's sharp teeth with one hand. While swinging its body, it extended its long arms and caught the falling silver box. Before the other beasts could react, it quickly opened the box and took out the item from the silver box. It stuffed it into its mouth and swallowed it without chewing. Ha ha ha. Speaking of agility, my evolved ape race is more agile. That ape laughed proudly. With a flash, it calmly dodged the elephant's furious stomp. "It's you again, Samson. I really suspect that when you were training your beasts, You knew that it was impossible to pass the trial and purposely trained the newborn beast to be a monkey. Everyone, let's just kill this damn monkey. Is the monkey itching for a beating? This stinky monkey is as annoying as that shameless bastard by E. Because the second robbery also failed, many beasts were furious and cursed loudly. Although they had already become magical beasts, they were originally not like this. Every magical beast here was originally a powerful and intelligent heaven stage martial artist. If not for this, they would not have been able to pass the fifth trial, the Beast Valley. In the Beast Valley, many of the fallen residents who became beasts were actually friends and even relatives from the same family. In order to survive, in order to become stronger, they had no choice but to use all means to attack the newcomers. Swallowing newborn beasts was one kind. Fighting with each other, swallowing each other's demon nucleus, and absorbing each other's energy was another kind. Of course, because the battles between beasts were usually the fishermen who reaped the benefits when the sandpiper and the clam fought. Without absolute certainty, they who cherished their lives would not easily start a battle, especially a life and death battle. After all, no one would have a second chance to start over after their lives were lost. Good skills. Yu Yang clapped his hands and praised repeatedly. Only when he opened his mouth did the beasts realize that there was something wrong with this kid. Twice in a row, the silver box containing newborn beasts was snatched and killed. Yet he could still laugh. The elephant asked, "Good boy, you're really arrogant. You're just a heaven-ranked level 3, and yet you're so arrogant. What are you doing?" Yu Yang conjured a bottle of soy sauce and said with a smile, "If I said I was just passing by, would you believe me? Do you think I'm stupid?" The rhinoceros roared angrily. "Whether you believe it or not, I believe it anyway." Yu Yang shook his head again and again, his actions as arrogant as a certain official of the Celestial Empire. "Something's wrong with my stomach. It seems that what I just swallowed wasn't a newborn beast." The ape realized that there was no energy to absorb from its stomach. It steeled its heart and used its claws to grab its throat. With a wah sound, it spat out a pungent acid. It took a closer look and realized that there was no corpse of a newborn beast in the pool of acid that it spat out. There was only a black stone. This kind of stone could be picked up anywhere on the roadside at any time. I was wondering what kind of treasure it was. "It's just a stone." The cheetah boss laughed when he saw it. "Congratulations, Samson. You've been fooled by someone again." The cheetah boss rejoiced in Samson's misfortune. Not only the two brothers, the other beasts were also secretly celebrating their luck. They almost had the misfortune of being fooled by a newbie fall on their heads. "Brat, hand over the newborn beast." The ape glared angrily at Yu Yang. "I'm very obedient." Yu Yang took out another box from his pocket that was exactly the same as the first one, but it was slightly different. This was a golden box. Now, even though there were dozens of beasts surrounding Yu Yang, no one dared to rob him. Even an idiot would know that something was wrong. This brat first took out a bronze box, then a silver box, and finally a gold box. Why was he so calm and generous when he took out the box? There must be a problem. Now, no matter who it was, no one dared to rob it immediately. Being fooled was a small matter, but if this human brat who was smiling like a demon used this as a trap and schemed against them, then it would not be worth it. The beasts all looked at each other in dismay. In the end, the elephant asked, "Brat, what's the meaning of this box?" When Yu Yang heard it, he smiled. He smiled warmly, just like a leader of the Celestial Empire consoling a poor farmer. However, it scared the beasts around him. Their hearts were hanging in midair, and they couldn't help but take a small step back, preparing to run away if something went wrong. Although newbies were easy to bully, there were exceptions. Some newbies were abnormal. Not only would they fail to harm them, they would also be harmed by them. Could it be that this brat was one of those abnormal newbies? Yu Yang stretched out his hand and patted the elephant's thigh in a friendly manner, scaring the elephant so much that it trembled. Yu Yang acted as if he was meeting an old friend. He enthusiastically introduced the gold box in his hand to the other party. "Actually, this box is nothing special. It's just that it's called Pandora's box." Pandora's box? This name, it sounded like it was not to be trifled with. But thinking about it, it didn't seem right. According to the rules of the Beast Valley, Not only could the owner not use their abilities, the treasure should also not be able to be used. Yu Yang seemed to see through everyone's confusion. He nodded and explained, "You've misunderstood. This Pandora's box is not my inherent skill, nor is it a treasure. It's a kind of divine power as compensation. I can't finish the story in 3 days and 3 nights. I'll pick out the most important one and tell you about it. It's about a goddess of misfortune called Pandora. She killed many gods. After she became enlightened, her divinity naturally made a kind of compensation, giving hope to any life that might be harmed." The beasts were all confused. They couldn't understand what Yu Yang was saying at all. Yu Yang nodded his head in understanding. "It's not strange that you can't understand. With your intelligence, it would be a little difficult to explain it clearly. However, it's not important whether you can understand it or not. You only need to know that this box carries the hope of the goddess of misfortune after she became enlightened. There's a kind of chaotic power in it that can greatly increase the power of the person who opens the box. The method of increase is not definite. Some can increase one's potential, some can increase one's level, some can increase one's battle power. Anything can happen." When the beasts heard this, they felt that it was a great thing. The ape that had opened the silver box and the female chameleon that had opened the copper box were both secretly pleased with themselves, beaming with joy. The cheetah brothers asked a question: "What's the difference between the gold, silver, and bronze boxes?" Yu Yang praised them. "That's a good question. Actually, there's a big difference between these 3 boxes. The chaotic power stored in the gold, silver, and bronze boxes are different. The gold box has the most, the bronze box has the least, and the silver box is in the middle. Of course, other than the chaotic power that brings hope, there's also the divine power of disaster that brings misfortune. After all, it's a magic box that the goddess of misfortune unconsciously created in her sleep. It's impossible to open it without the divine power of disaster." If Yu Yang hadn't said that last sentence, everyone would have cheered thunderously. But when he said that, everyone was scared silly. The ape Samson was so scared that his whole body trembled, as if he was a sick person that had been thrown into ice water. He asked with a trembling voice, "Divine power of disaster?" Yu Yang patted his shoulder lightly and comforted him. "Don't worry. Although there's the divine power of disaster in Pandora's box, it's a matter of probability that it will explode. The probability of triggering the silver box is not very high. There's only a 9,999% chance of getting misfortune, but there's still a 1% chance of getting the chaotic power that represents hope. Compared to the gold box that has a 99,999 times chance of getting misfortune, the silver box has a much higher chance of getting hope." Chapter 852. Just as Yu Yang finished speaking, the chameleon by E, who was listening at the side, was so scared that it took 3 steps back. It did not know how many times the probability of getting a disaster from opening the bronze box was, but the probability was definitely not small. It was very likely to be 999 times. But no matter if it was a gold, silver, or bronze box, opening it would only result in death. Even if it was 999 times the probability, who would be able to escape? The chameleon by E realized that its body was gradually changing. Its green skin that was always wet and slippery had unknowingly become dry. It became gray-white. Its scales were extremely itchy, as if it had been placed in a hot desert to dry. What kind of curse was this? One must know that its wet and slippery green skin was the evolution direction chosen by the war beasts. It was the most important camouflage. It could change its color, it could stick to the enemy, and it could also be used to resist attacks. It was the most important thing to protect its life other than its tongue. It should never be dry. How did this happen? It could not help but scratch. Countless thin scales floated in the air as it scratched. The demon beasts panicked and jumped away. They stayed away from the chameleon by E and the ape, afraid that they would infect the two with a disaster. Dehydration. The elephant made an authoritative judgment. By E has been hit by a disaster. There is a curse on its body that continuously dehydrates its body. If this goes on, it will become a dried corpse in less than 10 minutes. The chameleon by E screamed, "No, it won't. I will not become a dried corpse. I am a water and poison dual attribute chameleon. Even if it is a curse, it will not turn me into a dried corpse. My special skills and abilities, other than camouflage and long tongue to hunt, I also have poison secretion and skin shedding to escape. Even if it is a curse, it will at most shed a few layers of skin. I will not become a dried corpse. With its own heaven rank level 4 strength and that kind of special skill, no one would think that it would die, at least not from dehydration. But seeing is believing. Layers of scales peeled off and layers of skin were torn off. Not only was its body getting drier, Bai Yi's strength was also decreasing. When around 10 layers of skin peeled off, it had already fallen from heaven rank to a pitiful earth rank demon beast. After another 3 minutes, the female chameleon beast wingbreaker couldn't even maintain her earth grade strength and directly fell below earth grade. Even if it didn't die, it had no chance of surviving. Earth rank strength was not enough. Any one of the demon beasts could easily kill it. Bai Yi fell to the ground, reaching out his hand towards the demon beasts. His dry mouth made him unable to make any sound. The cheetah brothers trembled in fear. The elephant was more loyal. He sprayed a burst of rain with his long trunk and stepped out a puddle on the ground for Bai Yi to immerse himself in, hoping that Bai Yi would suffer less pain before he died. However, all the magical beasts stared dumbfoundedly as the chameleon Bai Yi, who was submerged in the water, died of thirst right in the pool, right in front of everyone's eyes. The corpse quickly dried up and withered. Finally, it floated on the water like a piece of dry wood. The chameleon that was originally 3 meters tall and 6 meters long with its tail had shrunk into a black corpse that was less than half a meter long. Such a tragic scene made all the magical beasts' scalps go numb. However, the one who was the most afraid wasn't them, but the ape Samson who had snatched the silver box with his agility. Now, he was almost paralyzed on the ground. "Save me! Save me! Save me!" The ape stretched out his hand toward his old friend. However, his friend simply couldn't avoid him. When he saw the ape Samson, it was as if he had seen a ghost. How could he extend his hand to save him? Furthermore, even if he wanted to save him, he didn't know where to start. The dehydrated Bai Yi would also die of thirst if he immersed himself in the puddle of water. His skin would also dry up and split apart. What else could he do to save the equally unlucky Samson? One of the baboons that was closer to Samson said with a trembling voice, "Samson, if you really can't take it anymore, I can help you free yourself. However, I can only do so much. I'm sorry, I can't do anything. I really can't do anything." The elephant saw that the ape Samson's skin wasn't dry up and quickly comforted him. "Samson, maybe you aren't cursed." Yu Yang nodded in agreement. There's indeed a certain probability to trigger the disaster divine power. Those who are lucky will also receive the power of chaos. This is for sure. Samson was like a drowning person who had found a life-saving straw. He grabbed onto it tightly and asked in surprise, "I'm not cursed by the disaster divine power. My body isn't dehydrated. I won't die, right?" Yu Yang shook his head. "Maybe, but I think it's more necessary to wait patiently. You must know that the longer the disaster divine power curse takes effect, the more powerful it will be. Before the final result is out, I'm not too sure. In addition, I can be sure that there isn't just one type of curse. There are countless of them. Dehydration is only one of them." "What? Wah wah wah." The ape Samson suddenly vomited. A large amount of clear water spurted out from his throat. His abdomen also quickly swelled up. It was as if he had fallen into the sea and been submerged for 2 hours before being scooped up again. In less than a minute, even his hands and feet were swollen. He clutched his neck and his eyes bulged out, looking like he was suffocating. But all the surrounding magical beasts could see that there wasn't a single drop of water around, including the water that Samson spat out. All the water was evaporated by the fire energy of the baboon. There was no water around, but that didn't mean that Samson's life could be saved. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Samson struggled in pain. In the end, he slowly suffocated to death. Under the extreme pain, his claws tore off his face and a terrifying bloody hole was dug out his throat. What was even more horrifying was that what flowed out of the bloody hole wasn't blood, but clear water that came out of nowhere. The baboon helplessly closed its eyes. It was Samson's friend, but it could only watch him die. It couldn't help at all. The elephant and rhinoceros also shook their heads and sighed. The curse of the divine power of disaster was something that no one could save. With Samson's powerful strength at the peak of Heaven Stage Level 4, even if he was thrown into the sea and submerged for 2 to 3 months, he wouldn't drown. But in less than 10 minutes, he drowned, and even his corpse was swollen. What kind of curse was this? Drowned. It was the complete opposite of the chameleon's death. One died of dehydration, and the other died of drowning. Everyone, please look over here. There's a golden box here. I wonder which friend wants to open it and take a look. Actually, my newborn beast is placed in this golden box. Since there's a newborn beast as an appetizer and the power of chaos as the main course, what are you waiting for? Come on, boss. Do you want to open it and take a look? The chances of winning are extremely high. It's much better than the 6-winning lottery. There's a 100% chance of winning. If you succeed, you'll win. If you fail, you'll get a consolation prize from the divine power of disaster. Yu Yang held the golden box and waved it in front of the magical beasts, scaring them into a frenzy. One by one, they screamed and ran away. They ran as far as they could. No one wanted to take another look at this abnormal newbie. If they stayed beside this kid for another second, their lives would be in danger. When the magical beasts that were lying in ambush at the entrance of the fortress ran away, Yu Yang shook his head in boredom and casually opened the golden box. As expected, the Reaper mantis the size of Thumbelina was sitting quietly inside. She started to develop intelligence with her cute eyes blinking at her master. This is the first lesson I'm teaching you. There's no problem in this world that cannot be solved with your brain. No matter what problem it is, there's a way to solve it. It all depends on how you use your advantage. When faced with difficulties, you must learn to think and learn to use intelligence to solve your enemies. Even if you have the strength to surpass your enemy, you still have to do this. This is because using wisdom to solve problems is much better than using brute force. Whatever you do, you will get twice the result with half the effort, not half the result with twice the effort, which is strenuous and unrewarding. Yu Yang revealed a smile. He used this time to teach the Reaper mantis who had just been reborn. Yes, yes. The Reaper mantis nodded excitedly. Stratagems are the most important embodiment of intelligence. If I didn't use 2 real boxes to deceive them and scare them out of their wits, how could I use a fake golden box to deceive them? So, you must learn to use stratagems. Also, you must remain calm at all times. Don't panic because of a disadvantageous situation. That is the worst reaction. Yu Yang taught the Reaper mantis that was still in the golden box as he walked. Unknowingly, they had already walked more than a kilometer away. Yu Yang only stopped when he almost bumped into the invisible deer-riding heaven ranker. Seeing the ferocious deer-riding heaven ranker in front of him, Yu Yang's first reaction was to close the golden box and hide the Reaper mantis. He even wanted to keep it in his pocket. The deer-riding heaven ranker laughed and pointed at Yu Yang with his halberd. No need to keep it, I saw it all. I say, kid, you killed 2 of them the moment you came out. You are still arrogant to teach your beast. Do you think that everyone in the Beast Valley is dead? I can't tell. You are so arrogant at such a young age. Now, what kind of bullish T intelligence are you going to use to plot against me? Calm down and let me see. Yu Yang turned around and wanted to run, but it was too late. The deer-riding heaven ranker's halberd flashed quickly. A terrifying cone-shaped shock wave shot out from the halberd. In an instant, the golden box in Yu Yang's hand was smashed into powder. If not for the fact that Yu Yang's body was protected by the ancient code, he might have been killed in an instant. In just a second, the golden box containing the Reaper mantis disappeared without a trace. Yu Yang looked at his empty right hand for a long time, unable to say a word. Ah, kid, show me how arrogant you are. How can you be calm to teach your trash beast? In the Beast Valley, it is always the law of the jungle. Only strength is respected. Without strength, talking about bullish T intelligence here. Uffed. Did your brain not recover from being beaten up? I have seen countless weaklings like you who think they are smart. Without exception, they all became beasts or completely died. Come on, show me how arrogant you are. Show me how arrogant you are. The heaven-ranked ranker who was riding on a deer-shaped beast scoffed at what Yu Yang had said to the Reaper Mantis. Actually, I can be even more arrogant. Do you really want to see? Yu Yang, who had his head lowered, suddenly looked up and showed a bright smile. He took out a golden box from his pocket. He opened it gently. The thumb-sized Reaper Mantis was sitting inside with a smile on its face. Yu Yang ignored his dumbstruck opponent and continued to teach the Reaper Mantis. For the second lesson, I want you to understand a principle. Never believe in your eyes. Eyes are easily deceived by illusions. It will deceive you. You have to learn to use your heart to sense. Your heart is not easily deceived. Also, in the future, you have to pay attention to a problem. Never underestimate your enemy. No matter what environment you are in, no matter how much advantage you have to maintain your original battle mentality. Arrogance and complacency are the beginning of failure. The Reaper Mantis listened attentively and nodded obediently. Yes, yes. The Heaven Ranker, riding on the flaming griffin, suddenly appeared behind Yu Yang. He sighed. What a terrifying newbie. How many years has it been since I saw such a newbie? Interesting. The lifeless beast valley finally has some fun. The heaven-ranked martial artist who was riding on the unicorn Pegasus appeared, his face covered in sweat. If it wasn't for his companion who was eager to snatch the credit and volunteer to fight, the person who would shatter the golden box would probably be himself. The consequences of shattering the golden box. He didn't dare to think about it anymore. Looking at the young man with a handsome smile on his face, he felt that this kid was 10,000 times scarier than a demon. Fight with this kid? No. Even if he had 100 lives, it wouldn't be enough to kill him. Chapter 853. Are the two of you here to kill newborn beasts? Yu Yang closed the golden box again. The Heaven Ranker on the back of the flaming griffin smiled, but did not answer. The Heaven Ranker on the single-horned Pegasus swore to himself that no matter what, even if it was the leader's order, he would not break that damned golden box. Even if there really was a newborn beast inside, he would not take the risk. Just now, he saw his comrade, Bai Lu, make a mistake that he would never regret. It was a mistake that could cause a lifetime of regret. He looked at his comrade as if he was looking at a dead man. In the sky, the power of the ancient code was condensing. This was the sign of punishment after the challenger failed. If you remember correctly, Bai Lu's beast giant horned deer had already died twice. If it died again, Bai Lu would become a demon beast. Boss, save me! Bai Lu cried out in panic, asking for help from the leading heaven stage martial artist. You are hopeless. The leader riding on the blazing griffin ruthlessly urged his mount to leave. Before he soared into the sky, he turned around and said to Yu Yang, I like interesting newbies. Right now, it's just the beginning. I look forward to your more exciting performance. All right. I forgot to tell you that before you had more than 10 companions who came to the Beast Valley. Actually, 3 of them have already left. The rest are looking for a chance to pass the trial. Maybe they will be happy to see you. Do you need me to bring you news? Is that so? Thank you for your kindness. I think it would be better for me to go by myself and give them a surprise. Yu Yang understood what this fellow was trying to say. He was trying to sound out Yu Yang's intentions, to see if he was acquainted with the other challengers. Although they aren't very friendly to me and are wary of me, rejecting new friends, please tell them that I'm very sincere and friendly. At the very least, I'm the friendliest among the 3 leaders of the Beast Valley's residents. Ha! This self-proclaimed friendly leader rode on the flaming griffin and flew into the sky, completely ignoring Bai Lu's cry for help. Dragon Horse, for the sake of our friendship, help me. Bai Lu asked for help from the Heaven Ranker on the single-horned Pegasus. I'm sorry, I can't do anything. The heaven-ranked martial artist, riding on the unicorn Pegasus, retreated 100 meters away. The originally arrogant Bai Lu was now trembling in fear. Unbeknownst to him, a black fog had spread out from his body. Because of the protection of the laws, the black mist couldn't cause any harm to the white deer, but the heaven-ranked giant horned deer under the white deer wailed in pain. Surrounded by black fog, its body swelled up crazily like an inflated balloon. Its bulging belly was even rounder than an angry capybara, and its eyes and tongue were forced to protrude out of its body. The white deer sensed that something was wrong. It could no longer care about its beast and jumped into the air in fright. Bang! At the same second, the heaven-ranked giant antler deer, which Bailu had painstakingly nurtured, exploded into pieces. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. From the moment the curse took effect to the moment its body expanded and exploded, it took less than 10 seconds. What made the white deer even more afraid was that the nomological power that had been quietly condensing in the sky was now immediately reacting. His main body was no longer protected. The punishment of the laws had arrived on time, and there was no way to avoid it. A bolt of lightning struck the top of the white deer's head, charring him black and causing him to fall to the ground. "Save me!" The white deer stretched out his hand to his companion for the last time, but he could clearly see his hand gradually turning into a deer's hoof in the black light. "No, oh my God, it's too scary." The heaven-rank warrior riding on the unicorn Pegasus was so scared that he rode a few hundred meters away, afraid that he would also be contaminated by the black light. After the beast died 3 times, the challenger would no longer be protected by the laws. Under the influence of the laws, the challenger would directly transform into the beast he had nurtured. In front of Yu Yang, the previously arrogant Bailu, he twisted his body on the ground. His mouth let out a wail, and his body slowly transformed. A giant horn grew on his head, and his hands and feet turned into 4 hooves. His head and body also quickly transformed into the appearance of his original mount. Other than maintaining his original memories, the current white deer was no different from his previous mount. Even his strength was exactly the same as the mount he had nurtured before. If he still had his original strength, the leader would naturally not turn a blind eye. But after the white deer failed, he became a beast like a mount. It was normal that the leader no longer treated him as a human. In the Beast Valley, this kind of thing was common. "Protect me. If you protect me through this week period, I will give you half of the wealth that I have obtained in the past." The white deer struggled in pain. In the face of cruel reality, he had no choice but to accept it. "I want your deer retrieving treasure blade." The heaven-rank warrior riding on the unicorn Pegasus, Long Ma, did not stand on ceremony and directly asked for the treasure. This, all right." The white deer who had transformed into a giant horned deer accepted the humiliation. Who would have thought? There was an unforeseen event. The white deer took out the deer retrieving treasure blade from his storage ring and threw it to the heaven-rank warrior riding on the unicorn Pegasus. The heaven-rank warrior took it and retreated. The white deer chased after him in despair. He immediately realized that he was still in a weak period and could not keep up with Long Ma. In that moment, he felt hopeless. His knees gave way, and he fell to the ground. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He, who was high and mighty, had only broken a golden box. Now he was abandoned. Not only was the leader ruthlessly abandoned him, even Long Ma, who was usually afraid of him, took the opportunity to bite back. How? How could he accept this? A shadow covered the white deer's eyes. He raised his head and saw that it was Yu Yang, who was holding the golden box, looking down at him. You want to kill me?" The white deer was shocked at first, but immediately reacted. His opponent was only a newborn beast and did not have the ability to kill him. A thought flashed through his mind. If he could obtain the energy of a newborn beast, he would be able to quickly recover from his weak period. Although he could not change back to his human form, he would still have powerful strength if he turned into a beast. Live on, I must continue to live on. How can I live on? Maybe. The white deer rolled his eyes and immediately came up with a plan. He crawled up and bowed to Yu Yang. "As long as you don't kill me, I am willing to be your mount." Yu Yang was thinking. He felt that it was not bad to have a giant deer as a mount. The white deer was afraid that he would reject him, so he flattered him, saying that Yu Yang was the best master in the world and that it was a blessing to have him as a mount. He was willing to be Yu Yang's mount for the rest of his life. In short, he said all kinds of disgusting, flattering words. As the white deer said this, he secretly looked at the golden box. Yu Yang gently opened the golden box and let the Reaper Mantis, who looked like Thumbelina, come out to breathe again. What do you think about getting him out? Although this fellow looks a little disgusting, it doesn't matter if you use it in the Beast Valley. This way, you don't have to worry about finding him out. Furthermore, you'll have a helper in the early stages. The Reaper Mantis nodded in agreement. Yes, yes. Just as she nodded her head, a voice suddenly rang out. Seizing the opportunity, the white deer's whole body exploded with energy. Although it had just become a beast after being punished by the law and had not completely adapted to its body, using its giant horn to kill a newborn beast was still a piece of cake. The giant horn's power was like that of a herd of mammoths charging. The cone-shaped shock wave not only destroyed the Reaper Mantis, but also the fake golden box that contained the Reaper Mantis. Yu Yang was a little stunned as he looked in front of him. A pit that was more than 800 meters deep had appeared in front of him. On both sides of the pit, the trees had been broken and overturned. The ground was in a sorry state. This was the power of the white deer's sneak attack. Ha ha ha. I say, brat, you are really a newbie. You really know nothing about the Beast Valley. Childish you. Let me teach you a lesson. Never trust your enemy and never lower your guard. In the Beast Valley, no one can be trusted. Do you think that I, the white deer, will be a mount that will listen to your orders? Buffed. I am the Grassland King, a strong warrior that rules over an area. Why would I be a slave for a newbie like you? You are too naive. The white deer laughed. Also, let me tell you another truth for free. In the Beast Valley, when a beast kills its opponent, it will gain the energy of its opponent. If you don't kill your opponent, you will never be able to level up. I hope that a childish fool like you can live for a few more days. It's a pity that the second, third, and final kill will not fall into my hands. You can slowly find your random beast to reincarnate into. This is the Beast Valley, not heaven, ha. I think he has said it clearly enough. I don't need to repeat myself, right? Yu Yang took out another golden box and opened it. The Reaper Mantis head popped out. Yes. The Reaper Mantis nodded obediently. The white deer's laughter was cut off like a knife. He looked at the golden box in Yu Yang's hands in a daze. His brain was stiff. He could not think at all. Hiding in a small forest a few kilometers away, the heaven-ranked warrior Dragon Horse was holding his breath as he watched. When he saw the scene, he was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. How many golden boxes did this brat have on him? How did he change them? No, those were not important. The important thing was that he did not attack. Fortunately, he did not launch a sneak attack and did not covet the energy to defeat the newborn beast. Otherwise, he would be finished. You lied to me? You knew that I would launch a sneak attack, so you purposely lure me into a trap? Am I right? The white deer finally understood a little. You are so smart. Yu Yang gave a thumbs up and praised the other party. I will fight you to the death. The white deer was completely enlightened. This brat had purposely opened the golden box and lured him into a trap. As long as he died, the fragile newborn beast would have its first victory and would gain its own energy to grow. The white deer did not know when he would die, but he knew that he did not have much time left. The shadow of death loomed over his heart. The white deer with red eyes rushed towards Yu Yang, and its giant horn once again swung towards the Reaper Mantis. Even if it died, it would drag one down with it. The Reaper Mantis jumped out of the golden box. Its small body faced the charging white deer, and the pair of mantis arms on its back flew over from afar. The mantis spun like the wind and lightly hit the white deer's body. This kind of light attack did not cause any damage to the white deer that was in its heaven-ranked beast form. However, the law of the Beast Valley determined that the two were fighting. If one party died, then the other party's energy would become the opponent's spoils of war. The white deer rushed over and was about to use its giant horn to kill the Reaper Mantis. Suddenly it stopped. Its entire body shrank in pain and curled into a ball. Just like the original giant antlered deer, its belly swelled up and all the energy in its body automatically gathered in its belly, no longer under the control of the white deer's will. Let me tell you the truth. If the disaster divine power does not succeed in cursing the target, it will not disappear. It will only lurk and wait for an opportunity. It can even lurk for a lifetime until there is a chance to curse the target. Please do not underestimate the divine power. It is actually the law of power controlled by the owner's will. It's just that the divine power is different, and the power is different. Do not think that the divine power will disappear so easily. Finally, I will give you and people like you who are eyeing me covetously a piece of advice. Do stupid things once. Don't do stupid things again and again. Yu Yang turned and left. When he turned, the white deer's body exploded. Flesh and blood splattered all over the sky and the ground. A huge head exploded from the middle, and a white magical crystal was thrown into the air amidst the blood. The Reaper Mantis caught it with its little hands and spread its wings agilely, flying around the splattering blood. It floated back into the golden box. Although she was a newborn, under Yu Yang's strategy, she successfully achieved the first kill. It did not matter if she killed it with her own hands. The most important thing was that she was recognized by the law of the Beast Valley. Scary. In the distance, the heaven-ranked warrior who was riding on the unicorn Pegasus and hiding in the forest used his trembling hands to wipe the cold sweat off his forehead. He had seen many newbies, but he had never seen someone as scary as this brat. The powerful and arrogant white deer was toyed to death by this brat. Until death, he was toyed within the palm of the other party. This brat was simply a pervert. Forget it. It was better not to provoke this kind of person. Let this brat go and harm those fellows guarding the back. What would happen to those fellows guarding the back if they met this perverted brat? He reckoned that this plague of bad luck would spread throughout the entire valley. If that was really the case, it might be a good thing for him to have such a perverted newbie. Chapter 854. The news of a super strong newcomer in the Beast Valley quickly spread to the ears of the leaders. Here, other than the challengers who failed the challenge and had to stay in the Beast Valley, the residents of the Beast Valley, there were even more demon beasts who failed and could never rise again. The residents were stronger, and they had a slim chance of leaving. That was why they called themselves residents, not losers. Based on their different ideologies, these residents formed three major factions. However, in the Beast Valley, there were many losers who had already become demon beasts. In order to survive, they were forced to join the 5 loosely managed but closely allied demon beast groups. In the eastern part of the Beast Valley, the Great Grassland area, this was the main management area of the Lion King. The elephants, rhinoceroses, baboons, dead apes, and chameleons that were lying in ambush outside the fortress were the Lion King's subordinates. Because he had directly faced Yu Yang, the Lion King received the news the fastest. The Lion King was the one who failed the challenge 20,000 years ago. After having no hope of leaving the Beast Valley, he spent most of his time improving his strength in order to live longer. Right now, it had already turned into a heaven-ranked level 7 Vajra lion. Although its body transformation and skill control were not the best among the 5 leaders, and it was even more impossible for it to reach the sovereign realm, its strength was undoubtedly the strongest. Other than it, no one else could reach the unprecedented heaven-ranked level 7 in its pure beast form. As for the other 4 leaders, even if they weren't as strong as the Lion King, they had evolved into some human-like forms, such as hands and feet, or perhaps they had gained a bit of enlightenment in the sovereign realm. There had never been a leader that could reach the 7th rank of the heaven realm in a pure magic beast form. Because of his seniority and strength, the eastern Great Grassland area occupied by the Lion King had always been the territory that the other leaders secretly envied. Under this premise, the number of demon beasts that surrendered to the Lion King was the largest, and the races were the most diverse. The elephants, rhinoceroses, and the dead apes were a part of it. Ian Samson both died from the curse, right? Are you sure that's not the ability of a newborn beast? The Lion King was a little suspicious. In the Beast Valley, the challenger's body, innate skills, and treasures were all useless. How could that newcomer use the silver and bronze boxes to kill Ian Samson? Could this be the ability of that little newborn beast? It's indeed a little suspicious. Leonas's advisor, long hair, stroked his beard and nodded. He was an old mountain elf. But how can a newborn beast have such great power to kill Samson and Bai? A huge crow raised a question. Perhaps it's a newborn beast that entered the gate of rebirth, and its original unique talent doesn't change. What we should pay attention to is that the newborn beast always stays in the box and never comes out. Perhaps she is casting the curse from inside. Another short-tailed cat, who did not participate in the battle, guessed. Very suspicious. Old Mountain Elf nodded in agreement. That's not the case at all. The elephant spoke. Regardless of whether that newborn beast has such a powerful ability or not, it has nothing to do with killing Sansun Pai. That newborn orc only increased his intelligence. Rhinoceros felt that it was a waste of his saliva to negotiate with these fellows. How do you guys explain the divine power curse in the box? The short-tailed cat asked back. That's right. Treasures can't be used in the Beast Valley unless the beasts that are nurtured have evolved into holy beasts and mythical beasts. Don't tell me that the newborn beast was a holy beast the moment it was born. Another vulture flapped his wings and questioned Rhinoceros. I don't know either. Rhinoceros was speechless. If he knew, why would he come back to discuss? Wouldn't it be better to just go and kill that newborn beast? I know. Samson and Bai, you were simply scared to death by the other party. Huh? The four Aardwolf brothers laughed together. Bullsh *T. The baboon who was Samson's friend was furious. Since you want to smell it, then I'll fulfill your wish. Pooh! A Aardwolf turned his butt and released a loud, smelly fart at the baboon, causing all the beasts to scatter. The baboon was even more furious. He immediately pounced on this vulgar fellow and violently beat him up. However, the other party had four brothers. Even if the baboon was stronger, he couldn't do anything to this opponent who had thick skin and strong vitality. Maybe it has something to do with the divine power of disaster. Divine power might be able to surpass the rules. The elephant raised a possibility. Extremely suspicious. Old Mountain Elf Longhair heard this and nodded his head repeatedly. Old Devil, other than suspicious, what else do you have to say? As the other think tank, the crow couldn't stand Old Mountain Elf Longhair's fooling around. Then the smartest one, you will solve this mystery. Longhair spread out his hands and directly put down his burden. You. This time, the crow was also speechless. I will say a few words. The Lion King saw that it was really outrageous and decided to stand up to make a concluding speech. Since the boss had spoken, although the beasts were not united internally, they still had to give him face. They all put down their grudges and went forward together to listen to the Lion King's words. The Lion King scanned the beasts with eyes full of the aura of a king. When he saw the hundreds of beasts bowing their heads, he nodded his head in satisfaction. According to a lot of intelligence, only the person who breaks the box will be cursed. On the contrary, if the box is not opened, then it is safe. Here, I will point out a key point. How many boxes are there? Such a terrifying cursed magic box can't be many. It is very likely that there are only 3 boxes: gold, silver, and bronze. That makes sense. The number of magic boxes is very suspicious. Old Mountain Elf Longhair clapped his hands vigorously and flattered the Lion King. Even if there are only 3, there's still 1 golden box. The rhinoceros snorted coldly. There's no more. The 3rd golden box has already killed the resident's white deer. The eagle descended from the sky, indicating that he had seen it with his own eyes. That's great. Let's immediately chase after that arrogant newcomer and kill that newborn beast. The Coyote brothers were drooling. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, wanting to devour the newborn beast. If not for the Lion King's words, they would have long set off before the beasts. Let's go. We won't go anyway. The Cheetah brothers had the opposite attitude. They refused to meet Yu Yang no matter what. Only they, who had narrowly escaped death, knew how terrifying Yu Yang was. Not only them, the elephant, rhinoceros, and the other beasts that had ambushed Yu Yang refused to fight. Even the smarter crows and short-tailed cat, who had not participated in the ambush, felt that something was amiss. Divine power was not something an ordinary person could possess. Against such an opponent, they had to be careful. The Lion King pondered for a moment. Killing such an arrogant newcomer was undoubtedly more beneficial to his reputation and rule. It was just that there was a risk in personally taking action. If he did not handle it well, he would lose his life. Divine power was indeed a headache. It was better to send his subordinates. Anyway, whether they lived or died had nothing to do with him. Hence, the Lion King showed the demeanor of a leader and praised the extremely greedy and eager Aardwolf brothers. He also comforted the frustrated elephant and other subordinates, telling them to rest well. He even let the two think tanks, Old Mountain Elf, Longhair, and Crow, come up with a detailed battle plan. He let the Aardwolf brothers, Vulture, Short-Tailed Cat, and the other subordinates that had the intention to devour the newborn beast attack one after another. He also said that whoever could kill this arrogant newcomer would be rewarded with 10 heaven-level magic crystals. Those who fought bravely would also be rewarded with 1 magic crystal. Under the heavy reward, the Aardwolf brothers, who were originally eager to hunt, were overjoyed. They immediately dashed away. Courting death, the baboon snorted disdainfully. "Sigh, forget it." The rhinoceros comforted it. The Beast Valley lacks everything but fools. The Lion King pretended not to hear this complaint. Commanding his subordinates needed fools. Otherwise, if they were all smart people, how could he, the boss, survive? The Lion King left majestically and headed for the 7-star rock, preparing to participate in the gathering of the kings. The Lion King believed that not only him, but the other leaders would also know that such an arrogant newcomer had entered. They would definitely discuss it together. Moreover, more importantly, there were still more than 10 strong challengers at the back of the Beast Valley. They were thinking of ways to clear the stage. These fellows were not to be trifled with. If he did not turn the beast that these fellows had nurtured into supplements, wouldn't he have been the leaders of the Beast Valley for so many years be in vain? An hour later, Yu Yang had just passed through a forest with the Reaper Mantis. Not even 100 meters away from the forest, he discovered thousands of mad wild bulls galloping towards them with red eyes. Their momentum was earth-shattering. The rumbling hooves could crush everything into pieces. What was even more terrifying was that these wild bulls that were automatically born in the Beast Valley had a barbaric charge ability. They could crush everything in front of them. Thousands of wild bulls carried the shock waves of the barbaric charge, covering the sky and covering the earth. That kind of scene was definitely a doomsday type of destruction. The Aardwolf brothers were secretly showing off. The plan to drive the wild bulls and use their barbaric charge to kill the newborn beast was thought up by them. They were only pretending to be stupid. They were not really stupid. Using a large area of effect to kill that newborn beast, whatever magic box, whatever God's power or disaster, they would not be able to do anything to them who were hiding behind. The strange thing was that not even 10 seconds after the wild bulls passed by, there was another strange phenomenon. The ground trembled. A violent earthquake shook the ground. The ground was distorted like a lunatic's mouth. Countless amounts of blood-red hot magma gushed out from the ground. The ground had become hell. The Aardwolf brothers looked at each other and realized that something was wrong. It seemed that other than the 4 of them, there were other people who were also ambushing this newborn beast. Moreover, they were despicably backstabbing it. If not for the protection of the Beast Valley's rules, Yu Yang would have died long ago when the ground cracked and magma flew everywhere. How would he be able to leisurely barbecue chicken wings like now? Yu Yang, who was smearing honey on the chicken wings, realized that the sky had darkened. When he raised his head, the sky was already filled with dense dark clouds. A bolt of lightning exploded. What fell was not raindrops, but countless meteorites. The rain-like meteorites, carrying raging flames, smashed towards the ground with a rumble. Yu Yang was dumbstruck. Was this the legendary meteor shower? Biting on a chicken wing, Yu Yang clasped his hands together and piously closed his eyes to make a wish. When meteors fall from the sky, let a beautiful girl descend as well. Meng Yo did not descend. Instead, not far in front of Yu Yang, Hundreds of large tornadoes filled with wind blades appeared out of nowhere. Rocks and trees. Wherever these large tornadoes passed, everything turned to dust. When Yu Yang saw this scene, he couldn't bear it anymore. He immediately shouted, "The wind is blowing, it's raining, it's time to collect the clothes." In the distance, a few enemies who had come to ambush him all fell to the ground when they heard Yu Yang's words. They foamed at the mouth and their legs twitched. Chapter 855. Originally, the Aardwolf brothers wanted to complain about the shameless last hit of their peers. Now that they saw it, he noticed that the tiny Reaper Mantis was like a fish swimming in the sea, happily flying up and down in the whirlwind, meteors, and lava, looking as though this game was really fun. His heart was instantly filled with jealousy. F***CK. What the F***CK? It was an elemental body. Using this elemental energy to kill this newbie's newborn beast was like spitting to the sky, asking to be humiliated. Facing the Aardwolf brothers' disdain, the Itachi scythe, not far away, stared back at them. Even if my whirlwind is useless, it's still 100 times better than the 4 of you driving bulls to ram people. With your IQ, you actually drove thousands of bulls to ram a newborn beast the size of a finger. I say, even if your talents are retarded, you will only become more stupid if you specialize in learning. You won't be this stupid even until you graduate. If you didn't expose your target early, we wouldn't need to attack in this open space. F***CK off, all of you. This Itachi scythe was not a subordinate of the Leo King. It was a capable subordinate of another beast group, the human-faced tiger. Its strength was far above the Aardwolf brothers. Once it spoke, although the Aardwolf brothers were unhappy, they did not dare to refute. They retreated further and pretended not to hear it. They were indeed anxious just now. If they had waited for Yu Yang to walk into the valley, the effect of their attack would have been much better. Even if they could not kill the tiny newborn beast, they could at least trap it inside. Fire! Another porcupine with thorns all over its body rushed out and shouted loudly. Its body tightened and shook. Almost 100 thorns on its neck shot towards the Reaper Mantis like raindrops. No matter how the Reaper Mantis flew around, it could not avoid it. The thorns shot by the porcupine all had the ability to track. Together with its unique talent, it was very powerful. Just as the Reaper Mantis was about to be hit, a meteorite suddenly accelerated and fell. At the same time, it deviated from its original trajectory and happened to block in front of it. The thorns pierced deep into the meteorite and penetrated the rock, only revealing a small part of the thorns. The porcupine was cursing in his heart. Damn it! Who was the one who spoiled his plans? Suddenly, he realized that the Reaper Mantis was flying towards him in a panic. He was overjoyed and opened his huge mouth to bite the little thing. Pa! Porcupine felt something shatter in his mouth. While he was chewing, he suddenly felt that something was amiss. When it came to its senses, it discovered that there was a huge meteorite in its mouth. There were countless needles on the meteorite. What's worse was that the Reaper Mantis had also attracted the giant tornadoes that could automatically track it. The porcupine did not even have the time to cry out before it was swept into the air. Seeing that it couldn't kill a newborn beast, killing a porcupine seemed to be a good idea. It simply soared into the sky and flew into the whirlwind, waving its sickle to attack the porcupine. A single lightning cross slash left 2 bloody marks on the porcupine's neck. Porcupines were also extremely tenacious creatures, and their own strength was not bad. Although they were not Itachi-sized opponent, they could barely protect themselves. It hurriedly rushed out of the tornado. Not bothering to counterattack, it immediately used its fangs to dig frantically. In an instant, it dug 100 meters into the ground and disappeared. The Reaper Mantis saw that the opponent was killing each other and felt happy, clapping its hands. Behind her, a toad the size of a small hill appeared. It opened its horrifying mouth and breathed out thick smoke. The poisonous smoke could not open Pandora's box, but it was more than enough to poison a newborn beast to death. Forget about newborn beasts. Even Itachi's scythe and the four Aardwolf brothers dodged in panic when they saw the toad and the poisonous smoke. This toad was one of the leaders of the five great beasts, the Toad King. Although its level was not as high as the Lion King, its overall strength was not weaker than the Lion King. Especially with its body full of poison, one would die if they touched it. Itachi's scythe and the Aardwolf brothers did not expect that it would personally kill a newborn beast. With the status of a big boss like the Toad King, personally killing a newborn beast, wasn't it too degrading? Whoosh whoosh. Although the Reaper Mantis had high intelligence, its speech was not accurate. She said whirlwind as whoosh whoosh. The two mantis arms behind its back twirled around its body, and a strange scene appeared. All the dark green smoke that was spat out twisted into a ball, instantly forming a storm. It was sucked towards the sky and turned into a poisonous smoke tornado. The Reaper Mantis, who was in the middle of the tornado, was leisurely, completely unaffected by the poisonous smoke. Itachi's scythe was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but grab one of the Aardwolf brothers and shouted in disbelief, "That's my unique skill, crazy demon wind scythe." Impossible. How could she know my unique skill? That Aardwolf was grabbed so hard that he could not breathe. He thought to himself, how would I know what was going on? Maybe she had secretly learned it. Of course, it did not dare to say such inconceivable words. After being ambushed by Itachi's scythe, she had only seen it once, yet she had secretly learned Itachi's scythe's unique skill. Even he himself felt that it was impossible and stupid to say such words. The Toad King charged into the poisonous smoke tornado with its huge body. This kind of hallucination ability, this kind of space transfer ability, it's definitely not my ultimate skill. The Aardwolf saw that it was no longer shaking itself and shook its body strangely. It's also not mine. Itachi's scythe was furious. Shut up. There's no place for you to speak here. Itachi's scythe was furious. Shut up. There's no place for you to speak here. Itachi's scythe's face was filled with tears. It wanted to reach out to its brothers to ask for help, but those three useless brothers were like quails that huddled together. None of them dared to come over and look for trouble. I say, Toad, look at your silly face. It's really embarrassing to be one of the five major beast kings with you. A shadow with butterfly wings, a human head, and a bee body quietly appeared. It raised both of its arms and threw the Toad King that was as big as a small mountain into the sky. Then, it fell from a height of 10,000 meters and smashed onto the ground. That shadow didn't stop there. It used its will to lift up a huge rock and smashed it on the Toad King's eyes. You poisonous bee, you're not a good thing either. The Toad King angrily puffed up its belly and jumped up. Although its body had suffered a series of attacks, it still didn't have any injuries. It was indeed worthy of being one of the five major beast kings. No matter how bad I am, I'm not like you. You don't even know that you're being toyed with by others. The shadow snorted. What? Eh? The Toad King slashed with its sword. The Reaper Mantis in the sky turned into an afterimage and disappeared. Its real body had already disappeared. Looking again at Yu Yang, who was leisurely eating chicken wings at the side, it didn't know when he had already slipped away. The Toad King immediately realized that it had been fooled. With its abilities as a beast king, it had ambushed in front and attacked from the back. However, it couldn't do anything to a newborn beast. It was really a great humiliation. Not only that, the reason why it fought with you was because it wanted to steal your skills. When that newborn beast matures, I hope it only cares about passing the stage. Otherwise, the Beast Valley will only be left with the four major beast kings and one more stinky toad. The butterfly-winged shadow flapped its wings and soared into the sky. It turned into light spots and quickly disappeared. Want to escape? It won't be that easy. The Toad King sniffed with its nostrils and chased in a direction. You can't even kill a newborn beast. You're really trash. The Itachi scythe threw the Aardwolf, whose neck was almost broken on the ground. He spat in disdain and turned to leave. The four Aardwolf brothers looked at each other. Actually, they really wanted to say, it's not like you can't kill that newborn beast. Moreover, the one who failed the most should be the leader-level Toad King, right? Of course, They wouldn't say these words that were asking for a beating. The short-tailed cat, porcupine, meteorite bat, and earth and fire earthworm, the few groups of beasts that had ambushed them, all left this messy battlefield one after another. If they knew that the arrogant newbie's newborn beast was an elemental body, and that it could steal its skills as soon as it saw it, they definitely wouldn't have come to ambush it. In this battle, not only did they not gain any advantages, they even offended a strong opponent in the future. If that brat had passed the stage earlier, it would have been better. If he was a narrow-minded person who bore a grudge for today's ambush and waited for that little guy to grow up, then he would come back to massacre them. That would be a tragedy. Another half an hour passed. The vulture that was hiding in the clouds in the sky finally went far away. After it left, Yu Yong walked out from under a layer of ice. He was holding a barbecue fork with 2 cooked chicken wings on it in one hand and a glass of frozen Qilin wine in the other. The Reaper Mantis followed behind him, hiccuping. Its small face was red, as if it was already 70 to 80% drunk. It seems that you didn't manage to hide from that poisonous bee. Your invisibility ability is still far from it. Your first counterattack can barely be rated as passable. Yu Yang lectured as he bit on a honey chicken wing. Okay. The Reaper Mantis nodded obediently and flew to Yu Yang's shoulder. It used its small fist to give him a light punch to please him. Bastard, hurry up and practice. Don't learn from Hui Tai Lang and flatter me. Yu Yang didn't fall for this trick. Chapter 856. 3 days later, Itachi Scythe used 3 whole days to make up his mind. That was to follow that newbie, to follow that newborn beast. This was an extremely dangerous plan that could endanger his life at any time. Based on Itachi Scythe's personality, he would not do such a thing. However, curiosity overcame fear in the end. Even if it had to die, it still wanted to know how that newborn beast managed to learn its mad demon wind/scythe and lightning cross kill. One must know that this was an ultimate move that he used 1,000 years to understand. This kind of extremely difficult move, even he, who created it, studied it for 1,000 years. That newborn beast, no matter how smart she was, could she learn it in one glance? When such a deadly curiosity arose in his heart, the threat of death also decreased by a lot. After 3 days of mental torture, Itachi Scythe set off. He tiptoed and returned to the battlefield that day. From the battlefield as the starting point, he followed the direction that his heart felt the most and chased all the way. This chase made him very surprised. Not far from the battlefield, he could see some wild beasts lying on the ground. They were not strong. They were all Earth-rank vegetarian beasts. They were also the most basic source of meat in the entire Beast Valley. Many gazelles and other Earth-rank and below Earth-rank beasts were lying dead on the ground. They died in different ways. Most of them were hit by lightning cross kill. Itachi Scythe was sure that this lightning cross kill was not very strong. It could only kill Earth-rank beasts. If it was used to deal with the peak of Heaven rank level 6 Toad King, it would not even be able to touch its skin. But 3 days ago, he saw with his own eyes that newborn beast cut open the Toad King's lips with a lightning cross kill. It also cut off a part of the toad's most powerful tongue. Itachi Scythe was sure that if he did it himself, he would not be able to do better. Because of that, he felt shocked. The problem was that the lightning cross kill that he saw now was not as strong as the one he saw 3 days ago. Even the technique used was far from it. Although this technique was used, it was obvious that it was done by a newbie. There were unstable energy ripples at the place of the kill. The depth of the ripples was different, and when cutting off the beast's head, it was not done cleanly. There were still some rubber bands left. Who did this? That arrogant newbie did it? Impossible. He was the main body. It was impossible for him to attack. Of course, there was another possibility. If he could unite with the beast and borrow the master's hand to attack, that was also possible. However, it was impossible for that to surpass the beast's abilities. The master was only assisting the beast's will. Strange, if this newbie skill was done by the newborn beast, then who was the one that killed the Toad King before? He walked a little further. The Itachi Scythe made a new discovery. Most of the beasts that had died seemed to be carnivorous magical beasts. At first, it didn't pay much attention to it, but after seeing more of it, it immediately realized this. After careful observation, Itachi Scythe was surprised to find that the newborn beast had improved. Furthermore, he had made great progress. The lightning cross slash, which he had not been very familiar with before, had improved to the level of proficiency in just a dozen or so kilometers of training. Among the 10 killed magical beasts, there were only 1 or 2 that were slightly flawed. Among the 100 killed magical beasts, there were even 1 or 2 perfect ones. More importantly, the magical beasts that he had killed now were mostly carnivorous magical beasts. They were stronger and harder to kill than the herbivorous magical beasts from before. After walking for around 50 kilometers, the Itachi Scythe was shocked when he saw the corpses of the magical beasts that had fallen on the ground. Now, there were only 1 or 2 that were not perfect kills. The rest were perfect kills. If it was him, he might be able to increase his strength, but his speed and technique would not be better. In such a short distance of training, this originally clumsy newbie had actually caught up to him, the one who had created this unique skill. What kind of intelligent creature would be able to reach this level? 100 kilometers. The Itachi Scythe found that the number of magical beasts that had fallen on the ground was decreasing. The newbie who had made great progress seemed to be comprehending along the way, and did not kill any beast to practice. However, after careful observation, the Itachi Scythe still found a few targets. The magical beasts that had been killed now were no longer the Earth-rank magical beasts that were everywhere, but the powerful Heaven-rank magical beasts. Moreover, this kind of killing was a super perfect instant kill. For this kind of super perfect instant kill skill, the Itachi Scythe could certainly achieve this. In fact, this was also the secret unique skill that he had studied for 3,000 years. In the entire Beast Valley, except for the dead, no one knew about this super perfect instant kill. As a secret life-saving unique skill, as a trump card, the Itachi Scythe had never used it in front of others. That newbie had never seen him use it. So how did she learn it? The Itachi Scythe felt dizzy. If the lightning cross kill was not created by him, then it could be said that the other party had learned it from somewhere else, and definitely did not know it now. In the entire Beast Valley, or even the entire Heaven Realm, only he knew the lightning cross kill. At least only he could attack like this. Then the super perfect lightning cross kill that had never been used before. How did the other party learn it secretly? With these questions that gave him a headache, the Itachi Scythe chased to a lake about 200 kilometers away from the original battlefield. He found that the newbie and the newborn beast were in front of him, and they were practicing. This kind of practice was not against magical beasts, but against the surface of the lake. The newborn beast that seemed to have grown a little bit waved its 2 mantis arms and flew down from the sky. A perfect lightning cross kill that made the Itachi Scythe exclaim from the bottom of his heart appeared in the sky, and then imprinted itself on the surface of the lake, soundlessly cutting open a cross-shaped crack on the surface of the lake. The Itachi Scythe knew that even if he did it himself, he would not be able to do it better. This kind of super perfect instant kill was not something that could be easily achieved at any time. You're an idiot. You can't even learn this kind of lousy skill after so long. What did I say before? I'm not cutting open the surface of the lake. If the surface of the lake does not move, there should not be a single ripple, not to mention cutting open the entire lake. What I want is not this. What I want is to cut open the sky. To cut open the sky. Do you know what cutting open the sky is? You're simply an idiot. You're not allowed to cry. Go and practice immediately. If you can't finish the task today, you're not allowed to eat. Yu Yang's angry reprimand directly made the Itachi Scythe confused in the wind. The Reaper Mantis wiped its tears and continued to practice. One after another perfect instant kill appeared on the surface of the lake, but it was still unable to achieve the requirement of cutting open the sky and not rippling the surface of the lake as requested by Yu Yang. The Itachi Scythe was speechless. If it wasn't worried about the whereabouts of the rainstorm, it really wanted to jump out and grab that brat's neck, shake him again, and warn him not to be too strict. Just this alone was already a huge blow to it. If he could also cut open the sky and not rippling the surface of the lake, then it might as well commit suicide. He practiced it over and over again. Hour after hour passed, until nightfall. The exhausted Reaper Mantis finally released a lightning crosskill that could cut open the sky. But because its strength was exhausted, it could not control its momentum. At first, the surface of the lake was not rippling, but when it lost control, it was immediately cut into 4 pieces. After more than 10 seconds, the lake water could not gather together. The Itachi scythe, who was hiding in the forest and peeking, dropped his jaw to the ground. Could it really cut open the sky and not rippling the surface of the lake? This can barely be rated as passable. You need to practice such a simple move for so long, and in the end, you still can't control it well. Did you even put in the effort to understand it? Forget it. Let's rest for today. Tomorrow, we can't practice this kind of crappy move anymore. We must have higher requirements, and our time is very tight. Tomorrow's goal is to draw 2 roses in the sky and cross each other. Every petal requires 9 spatial slits, and the whole thing needs to be covered with a cross runic circle, replacing a simple cross. If it can be achieved, it might be of some use in battle. All right, you're crying and laughing at the same time. You're the one who loves to cry the most. Hurry up and eat. Yu Yang was still not satisfied. He reprimanded it, and finally softened his voice, coaxing the Reaper Mantis to come back. After hearing this, the Itachi scythe was full of tears. He hugged the tree with both hands and smashed his head on it. He really wanted to kill himself, although he knew that there was always someone better than him. But to let a newborn beast catch up with his thousands of years of practice in just a few days, and in the blink of an eye, the blow was undoubtedly heavy. The most important thing was not this. What really made the Itachi scythe want to commit suicide was Yu Yang's words. The ultimate move that he was proud of for thousands of years, in the eyes of others, was an unsightly, crappy move. How could he live? Who was this brat? Even if he was abnormal, he couldn't be this abnormal, right? Sure. Not far behind the Itachi scythe, there was a shadow riding on a unicorn Pegasus, softly calling the Itachi scythe, who was banging his head on the tree. Don't do this. You will alarm him. That guy is a murderous demon. Once he finds out, we will die miserably. The Itachi scythe was shocked. He looked back and found that it was a dragon horse. He asked curiously, "What are you doing here?" The dragon horse, who was riding on the unicorn Pegasus, put its index finger to its lips and whispered, "Isn't it the same as you?" Itachi scythe finally understood. It turned out that this dragon horse was also chasing after that abnormal brat like him. However, there was another question. He had let that newborn beast secretly learn his ultimate move, and then he came here out of curiosity. Why was this dragon horse here? How could the dragon horse not see the doubt in the Itachi scythe's eyes? He smiled bitterly. That shuttle flight, she stole it from me, even before you. With this, the Itachi scythe was suddenly enlightened. No wonder that little guy could easily dodge the attacks of thousands of wild bulls, the earthquake explosion, the meteor shower, the spiral hurricane, and even the porcupine and toad king's attacks. It turned out that she had already secretly learned the dragon horse's ultimate move, light chasing dance steps. No wonder it looked so familiar at that time. It was just that the difference between the two of them was too big. Furthermore, the battle was ever-changing, so he did not think in that direction. It turned out that the little guy had already secretly learned the dragon horse's flying technique, the unicorn Pegasus. No wonder she could move so easily. Looking at the Reaper Mantis that was happily flying around in the sky, the Itachi scythe could see that she had improved again. He felt that she was even more mysterious than the dragon horse's light-chasing dance steps. It was the same as his own ultimate move, lightning crosskill. After a few days of practice, she had completely surpassed him. For a moment, the Itachi scythe really wanted to hug the dragon horse and cry bitterly. Both of them were beasts. Why was there such a huge difference between beasts? The Itachi scythe was very excited. Just as he was about to speak, the dragon horse made a gesture to keep quiet, as if it was facing a great enemy. After the two of them hid their auras, in less than 10 seconds, a huge black shadow appeared in the sky and covering the sun. The Itachi scythe and the dragon horse both recognized it. It was the Toad King's right-hand man, the bat scarlet-eyed demon. Other than itself, this fellow also used its strong reproductive ability to give birth to close to 1,000 children with the ghost bats, vampire bats, demon ears bats, and other wild beasts in the Beast Valley, forming an army of bats. Although it was not very strong, because it had many children, it could easily suppress and kill with its group advantage. Therefore, it could be considered a tyrant in the Beast Valley. What's wrong? The Itachi scythe was puzzled. Although the scarlet-eyed demon had the advantage in numbers, he was not afraid of it, let alone the dragon horse who was a resident. Why was it afraid to this extent? I'm not afraid of the scarlet-eyed demon. I'm afraid of that young man. You've only been here for half a day, so you might not know. I've followed him for 3 days, and the number of beasts and Julioju that died in his hands has already exceeded 20. As long as you're alone and discovered by him, there's no chance of survival. You don't know this, but he's basically a homicidal maniac. He specially uses our energy to level up that little guy's beast. He is the god of death sent by the heavens to judge us. The dragon horse looked at Yu Yang, its eyes revealing incomparable fear. How is that possible? He can't even do it himself. The Itachi scythe was completely confused. I also can't explain it, but look, the scarlet-eyed demon, that fool, will die very soon. When the dragon horse said this, it even swallowed a mouthful of saliva in fear. Chapter 857. Itachi Scythe could not understand. How could a person who could not make a move under the restrictions of the law be able to kill his enemies? Even if there was a Pandora's box, he had to make a move to open it. If he did not open the box, then the curse would not happen. In other words, even Pandora's box, which contained the power of calamity, was not invincible, was it? How could he kill more than 20 magical beastmen and residents like himself? The dragon horse, who was riding on the unicorn Pegasus, looked at Itachi Scythe seriously. He seemed to be observing if Itachi Scythe was worthy of his trust. His expression was so serious. It made Itachi Scythe's hair stand on end. Finally, the dragon horse made a decision. Listen, if you do not want to be his enemy and only want to watch from the sidelines, then remember my advice. Itachi Scythe looked at the dragon horse's serious expression, and his heartbeat sped up. He swallowed his saliva, nodding, indicating that he was willing to listen to the advice and cooperate. The dragon horse muttered to himself and looked at the scarlet-eyed demon. Finally, it whispered into Itachi Scythe's ears. You must remember one thing. Regardless of whether Pandora's box is opened or if it appears in his hands, as long as that person says, "Do not say that I did not warn you," you must not laugh, and you must not oppose, ridicule, or have any other negative reactions. Even if you curl your lips in disdain, you are dead. After saying those words, unless someone dies, you must not have any other thoughts. I suspect that it was a revelation, a signal to activate the curse. As long as anyone responds to it, even the laws of the Beast Valley will not be able to protect their life. Itachi Scythe's scalp went numb. What the hell? Saying one sentence and someone will die. What kind of attack is this? But Itachi Scythe did not doubt the dragon horse's words. A curse with divine power was naturally extraordinary. If it was like a normal attack, would it still be a curse? Now let's see how this bat scarlet-eyed demon dies. Bats descended from the sky and stopped around the lake. Each of them had the strength of Heaven Stage. Although they were all Heaven Stage level 1 or 2, there were almost 1,000 of them, enough to make up for everything. The scarlet-eyed demon's own power was at Heaven rank level 4, far more powerful than ordinary magical beasts. It was only slightly inferior to the few remaining residents and Itachi Scythe. With Scythe's strength at the beginning of Heaven Stage level 5, he really didn't want to provoke this scarlet-eyed demon. After all, its large group of children were too annoying. In the Beast Valley, Only a few failed challengers like the red-eyed demons would mate with wild magical beasts and live happily in the Beast Valley, like Itachi's Scythe and the others, even though they were in beast form. However, his heart was still that of a human, and he couldn't change his mindset, not to mention reproducing with wild magical beasts. Even his own magical beast form was extremely hateful. It was only because it had no other choice that it became a skunk. If it could be a normal human for another year, it wouldn't matter even if it died in the future. Of course, that was impossible. The consequences for the defeated challengers of the Beast Valley were irreversible. Or succeed, or failure. There was no third possibility, no third choice. You're that arrogant newbie, right? He looked like he was asking for a beating. I don't care. Your arrogance ends here. If you meet your master Scarlet-eyed who has time to deal with government affairs, that will be the beginning of your tragedy. The bat Scarlet-eyed demon saw that Yu Yang was about to speak and immediately gestured with his hand. Don't talk nonsense. I know what you want to say. Don't you want to brag about your strength and scare me with some rom box? How many boxes do you have? I have hundreds of children, and none of them are afraid of death. Take them out. I'll open them all. Besides, how many boxes can you have? You killed a few idiots just now, and you think you can run amok in the Beast Valley? Let me tell you, that's because you haven't met your master Scarlet-eyed yet. Otherwise, your arrogance ends here. I promise I won't take the box. Yu Yang smiled and shook his head. Mother Kerr, if you don't take the box, do you think I won't know what you're up to? You made an agreement with the guys who came in earlier. This Pandora's box might have been left for you by them. What are you pretending for? Do you think I'm stupid? You're just a bean sprout. How can you have a box with divine power? It's all because of that box that Jiwuri left for you. Do you really think you're God? You're the crazy one. If you're not the disciple of that pretentious prick, Jiwuri, then you're the disciple of that pretentious prick, Zhonghua. Otherwise, you're the disciple of that sneaky cook. Other than the three of them, no one else has the ability to protect you. Do you think I didn't do any research before coming here? Heh, I'm so smart. I won't be intimidated by your little tricks. I'm impressed. Other than that, I have nothing else to say. Yang clapped his hands and praised. Itachi and the dragon horse looked at each other. They did not expect this scarlet-eyed demon to be so cautious despite his scummy appearance. At the very least, he had done some research before coming here. However, wasn't his attitude a little too arrogant? He didn't even confirm the truth and rushed to a conclusion. At this moment, when they looked at the scarlet-eyed demon again, it was as if they were looking at a dead person. Between the scarlet-eyed demon and Yu Yang, one was arrogant, and the other was calm and composed. Even a blind person would know who would win. Although the bat scarlet-eyed demon looked arrogant on the surface, he did not rush towards Yu Yang recklessly. After all, he still had some scruples. Pandora's box had killed Pai-E, Samson, and the white deer. That was not a lie. He first rolled his eyes, then raised his voice and sneered. I've already found you guys, come out. Itachi and the dragon horse looked at each other again. It couldn't be. Both of them had always felt that their invisibility ability was their most satisfying skill. Whether it was Itachi's wind summoning technique or Dragon Horse's light stopping step, they were all first-class invisibility skills. How could they be discovered by the scarlet-eyed demon when they were hiding here so early? Both of them were discouraged. Just when they were about to show themselves, they suddenly heard a laugh from afar. Two shadows of different sizes appeared at the lakeside. Itachi and the dragon horse recognized these two shadows. One of them was the scarlet-eyed demon's archenemy, the flying dragon lizard. The other one was the scarlet-eyed demon's friend, big-eared rat. Of course, because of the flying dragon lizard's appearance, Itachi and the dragon horse also noticed that there was another shadow that slid into the lake. Looking at its figure, it should be the flying dragon lizard's friend, the flower belly python. Brother Scarlet Eye, there's no smell of outsiders. This brat's helper should not be here. Big-eared rat approached the scarlet-eyed demon and reported quietly. You want to snatch the first kill, but you're afraid of death. You might as well hide in your mother's pants and come out only after she dies. The flying dragon lizard sneered. It had a personal grudge with the scarlet-eyed demon, so it was already lucky that it did not attack immediately. You want to snatch the first kill with just a rotten lizard like you? Let me tell you, this brat's beasts have already been taken by us. The Toad King has ordered that whoever tries to snatch it will fall out with us. Aren't you arrogant flying insect? Come and snatch it. Let's see if you have the guts. Don't think that I, the Scarlet Eye, will be afraid of you just because you hooked up with that sneaky guy, the Flower Belly. Why don't you ask around? Among the 5 forces, your side is the weakest. If it wasn't because your boss always shows filial respect to the Lion King and us, your side would have been annihilated long ago. The scarlet-eyed demon waved his hand, and the bats that filled the sky flew up and screeched. The sound of their wings flapping resounded throughout the lake. Other than talking about the Toad King, what other abilities do you have? If you have the guts, fight me one-on-one. Using the Toad King as an excuse, you're a coward. The flying dragon lizard was not afraid of the scarlet-eyed demon, but it was still a little afraid of the Toad King. Come, do you think I, the Scarlet Eye, will be afraid of you? I'll settle you first, then I'll snatch the first kill. Big-eared rat, help me look out. Don't let anyone snatch it. Yes, Brother Scarlet Eye, you can rest assured. Just as the two sides were about to fight, Yu Yang, who was so bored that he was about to fall asleep under the tree, yawned. He let out a long yawn and said indifferently, "You guys can fight, but don't disturb my sleep. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you." Itachi's side never thought that. This abnormal brat would actually use such an indifferent attitude to say such a thing at this time. Itachi's side's heart froze when he heard this, and immediately turned to look at the dragon horse. Unexpectedly, when he looked, he saw that the dragon horse was trembling all over, its face deathly pale. Immediately, he felt a chill in his heart. Could it be that, without any rituals or incantations, without any restrictions, even if he said it in a casual tone, the curse of the god of disaster would still take effect? If that was really the case, then a lot of people would have died. Itachi Scythe no longer looked at the scarlet-eyed demon and the flying dragon lizard, not daring to think too much about it. He immediately forced himself to enter an ethereal state. Any negative emotions were suppressed, and he maintained neither sadness nor happiness. He heard a burst of laughter beside his ears. The laughter came from the scarlet-eyed demon, the flying dragon lizard, the big-eared mouse, and the flower-belly python that was bubbling on the water surface. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. What did you say just now? Don't what? The flying dragon lizard laughed until tears flowed down. It's don't blame me for not warning you. Yu Yang explained patiently. Ha, what? Can you say it more clearly? The flying dragon lizard understood, but pretended not to hear clearly. Don't blame me for not warning you. Yu Yang repeated. I still can't hear you clearly. Say it more clearly. The scarlet-eyed demon didn't want the flying dragon lizard to have the upper hand, so he purposely opened his mouth to tease Yu Yang. Surprisingly, Yu Yang wasn't angry at all. Instead, he smiled and said again, "This is the last warning. Do you want to laugh me to death? Don't blame me for not warning you. Who do you think you are? Continue to scare me." The scarlet-eyed demon held his belly and laughed. Hearing Yu Yang say it 4 times, Itachi Scythe and Dragon Horse opened their eyes at the same time. They wiped their cold sweat at the same time. While suppressing their heartbeat in fear, the two of them stared at the lakeside, waiting for the strange phenomenon to happen. The disaster divine power must have already shown its power. The young man saying, "Don't blame me for not warning you," should be the signal to open Pandora's box. The scarlet-eyed demon and the other's laughter should be the key to open it. These fellows thought that they could show off their power and tease the other party, but they didn't know that this kind of behavior was suicidal. How would the scarlet-eyed demon, big-eared mouse, flying dragon, lizard, and flower-belly python die? Would they be dehydrated, drowned, or exploded? Itachi Scythe and Dragon Horse stared at the scene without blinking, afraid that they would miss the most exciting scene in their lives. The scarlet-eyed demon and the others were still laughing crazily. There was nothing strange at all. A gust of wind blew. Countless hairs scattered in the air. Itachi Scythe and Dragon Horse immediately stared at a target, big-eared mouse. They saw that this idiot who didn't know that death was coming and was still laughing crazily was aging rapidly. The hairs on its body were visibly turning white, its skin was wrinkling, and it started to shrivel. The most exaggerated thing was when Big-Eared Mouse laughed crazily, its teeth loosened. As a sign of health and strength for Big-Eared Mouse, the pair of big ears had curled up. "Huh, my teeth are falling off, brother. I look, even my teeth are falling off. Caca, cough, cough. This is so funny. Cough, cough, cough. I'm dying of laughter." Big-Eared Mouse realized that it had lost a tooth and thought that it had fallen off from laughing too much. It became even crazier and even picked up the tooth to show off to the scarlet-eyed demon. The flower-belly python in the lake had turned into stone. It sank to the bottom of the lake. Only the scarlet-eyed demon and flying dragon lizard were still laughing crazily, not knowing what was going on. This mocking laughter came from the lakeside, rushed out of the forest, and resounded through the clouds. It sounded extremely sarcastic. Chapter 858. You're laughing your teeth off? Ha ha ha. You're laughing your teeth off? I'm dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. No, your face. Huh. How did your face turn into that of an old man? The scarlet-eyed demon was still laughing, but it realized something was wrong. The big-eared mouse was now an old man with one foot in the grave, the kind that would die in the blink of an eye. Cough, cough. The big-eared mouse could no longer laugh and fell to the ground. The flying Japalura's laughter, like a knife, it froze in fear as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. For the big-eared mouse to suddenly become like this, something must have gone wrong. According to the reports of the deaths of Bai, Samson, and the resident white deer, the big-eared mouse must have been cursed by the god of disaster. The flying Japalura broke out in cold sweat as it thought of this. In a moment of desperation, it could no longer care about the first kill and roared, "Flower belly, something's wrong, let's retreat." But the entire lake was empty, and there was no one to answer it. The flying Japalura scanned the area with its eyes and found that other than the Reaper Mantis, who was treading on the surface of the lake like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, there was no sign of its ally, not even a sign of life. Could it be, at this time, even an idiot like the flying Japalura knew that the situation was not good? It looked to its side, and the scarlet-eyed demon was still laughing crazily, and the more it laughed, the louder it became. Even the scarlet-eyed demon himself realized that something was wrong and could no longer control himself. The lonely laughter in the dead silence traveled far, far away. This time, the laughter was no longer filled with mockery, but with anxiety, anger, and fear. This kind of uncontrollable laughter was 100 times worse than crying. The scarlet-eyed demon squeezed its throat, but could not stop the laughter from coming out, and it seemed that if it forced itself not to laugh, the laughter would explode its lungs and leave a hole in its chest. The Reaper Mantis flew to the head of the dying big-eared mouse. Although the big-eared mouse knew that it could not make it, its murderous intent was still there. Before it died, it raised its claws and struck the Reaper Mantis, intending to drag the Reaper Mantis down with it. This strike had exhausted the last of its energy. The big-eared mouse's claws slapped weakly on the Reaper Mantis's rotating arms and died. The corpse quickly withered and became weathered. A gentle breeze blew across the surface of the lake, and in less than half a minute, the big-eared rat was reduced to a corpse. The Reaper Mantis waved its mantis arm lightly, bringing up a green magic crystal. She happily caught it. The flying dragon lizard trembled as it watched. When it saw the Reaper Mantis charging towards it, it couldn't help but release a shockwave. In the eyes of the two bystanders, Itachi and Dragon Horse, a perfect cross-shaped lightning instantly appeared in front of the Reaper Mantis. Spatial rend. The soaring dragon lizard shockwave was perfectly cut into 4 halves. The lightning kept slicing through the shockwave and retreating. However, it was so ingenious that it did not injure the soaring sky dragon lizard's skin. All the power of the attack vanished before the soaring sky dragon lizard. The red-eyed demon, who was still laughing maniacally, had already ordered its hundreds of children to attack the Reaper Mantis. However, its main body was struggling amidst the laughter, trying to escape. The Reaper Mantis moved faster than the speed of light, cleverly passing through the swarm of bats. He dodged the attacks one by one. He nimbly blocked the path of the scarlet-eyed demon. Seeing this, Itachi and Dragon Horse looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The super-perfect lightning cross instant kill and the light pursuit dance steps were the ultimate skills that Itachi the Scythe and Dragon Horse were proud of. Now, they were able to use them on the same person. In fact, the student had even surpassed the master, completely surpassing the original creator. Seeing this scene, it would be strange if Itachi and Dragon Horse didn't feel bitter in their hearts. The Reaper Mantis did not want to kill the flying dragon lizard and the scarlet-eyed demon. She only wanted to be like the white deer and the big-eared rat, to have the laws recognize the battle between them. Only then could the Reaper Mantis obtain the energy of the flying dragon lizard and the scarlet-eyed demon under the laws of the Beast Valley and use it to level up faster. The white deer allowed the Reaper Mantis to get the first kill. The 20 over magical beasts in the middle, as well as the double kills of the flower-belly python and the big-eared rat, became her energy source to level up. Later on, the flying dragon lizard and the scarlet-eyed demon would be added. Everything was going according to Yu Yang's plan. Get lost, haha. It's still too early for you to kill me, huh? Although the scarlet-eyed demon's tone was firm, its heart was in a mess. It attacked crazily. All kinds of ultimate skills, sound wave attack, reverse slash, spinning attack, scarlet-eyed light ray, bat smoke, flying formation, all kinds of attacks came one after another. However, it was useless. It was just a last-ditch effort to speed up its death. Looking at its panicked attacks, it could not even use 10% of its usual power. If it wasn't for the Reaper Mantis blocking it, it would have escaped like the flying dragon lizard. Ha 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 ha! The bats in the sky were killed by the Reaper Mantis one by one, but the scarlet-eyed demon, whose speed was getting slower and weaker, could not care less. It fell head first to the side of the lake, using its arms to support itself. It kept dipping its head into the water, hoping to use this method to hold back its laughter. Gurgling, bubbles appeared. Even with its head in the water, the scarlet-eyed demon could not help but laugh crazily. It used mud to seal its eyes and nose, but its laughter still reverberated in its lungs. When it accumulated to a certain extent, it broke through the mud and laughed even more crazily. It laughed until the scarlet-eyed demon almost suffocated. It laughed until its whole body convulsed, but still could not stop. The scarlet-eyed demon became angry and forcefully stuffed a pile of rags and other things into its throat. Then it stuffed its mouth and nose tightly. Its body finally stopped convulsing because of the laughter. The laughter seemed to have stopped at this moment. Yu Yang whistled as he roasted a lake fish happily, adding seasonings from time to time. The scarlet-eyed demon did not exist in his eyes at all. In the sky, hundreds of bats fell like rain. Finally, death won over the craziness. The bat children who would rather die than retreat were scared out of their wits by the Reaper Mantis's massacre. The remaining dozens of bats abandoned their father, the scarlet-eyed demon, and fled in all directions. The scarlet-eyed demon on the ground also wanted to stand up and escape. However, as soon as it moved, its chest exploded. The power was so great that it was enough to blast a huge bloody hole in its chest. As if it had to howl in pain to escape, the scarlet-eyed demon frantically dug out the rags in its throat, trying to vent its unbearable pain by howling in pain. However, when it opened its mouth, it laughed crazily, ha, ah, spare me, huh? Grandpa Scarlet-Eyed, what did you say? Yu Yang pretended not to hear it clearly. Spare me, ha ha ha. The scarlet-eyed demon laughed so hard that blood splattered from its mouth and nose. Originally, it would not be able to laugh after its lungs exploded. However, the truth was that it could not stop laughing even in death. Yu Yang used the same attitude that the scarlet-eyed demon used to tease him, and placed his hands next to his ears to listen. What did you say? Louder. The scarlet-eyed demon did not have the strength to speak anymore. It laughed as it twitched. Countless pieces of its internal organs flew out from its bloody hole due to its laughter. The scarlet-eyed demon shed tears. At this moment, it only wanted to die quickly. However, the only thing it could do was to continue laughing, laughing until it died. As it waited for its death for 10 minutes, its heart had almost jumped out of its body, but it was still laughing painfully. Tears of regret and bloodstains mixed together. If the scarlet-eyed demon could choose again, it would definitely rather commit suicide than become enemies with Yu Yang. However, there was no chance for a second chance in life. At the very least, it would not have a second chance for a person who had committed such a heinous crime, deserved to die, and was also brutal. At the same time, at the 7-star cliff, a place where only kings could gather, there were close to 100 beasts surrounding the dying flying dragon lizard. At this moment, the flying dragon lizard's skin and muscles looked as if they had been peeled off by a knife, separated from its skeleton. Other than its head, its entire body was covered in white bones. What incantation did the newbies say? The Lion King, Toad King, and the human-faced tiger were all present, and they questioned the flying dragon lizard that had escaped. No, incantation. The flying dragon lizard's pupils dilated and scattered. What exactly is going on? How did it become like this? Who did it? Dragon lizard? What do you want to say? Who's the enemy? The flying dragon lizard's boss, Eagle King, had arrived. Seeing his subordinate's miserable state, he could not help but be furious. Perhaps because his boss had arrived, the flying dragon lizard's eyes moved, and it gathered its strength before dying. It said weakly, "Don't say anything." Before it could finish, the flying dragon lizard's skeleton loosened, and the skin on its head seemed to be peeled off by a knife. Blood gushed out. The flying dragon lizard, which only had its head left, turned into a pale skeleton in front of everyone's eyes. The horrifying scene made the surrounding beasts all take a few steps back. They were deeply afraid that they would also be affected by the curse of this divine power of disaster. The Lion King advised Eagle King to calm down. When you were fighting at the back, another newbie came to the fortress. You should be a disciple of Jiwuri or Zhonghua. Before the dragon lizard died, he said that Scarlet, I had investigated the newbie's identity at the back of the Beast Valley. Brother Toad also confirmed this. I don't know if that newbie got a treasure from Jiwuri or Zhonghua. It's a curse-type treasure that can be triggered, called Pandora's Box. There are 3 kinds: gold, silver, and bronze. It's fine for him to open it himself, and it's usually harmless. But once it's triggered, the victim will be affected by all kinds of divine power curses. Bai died of dehydration, Samson died of drowning, White Deer exploded, and the dragon lizard even said that the big-eared rat's curse was aging. The poisonous wasp king with a human face, butterfly wings, and bee body had also arrived. Seeing such a miserable state, he shook his head and sighed. I don't know why you must provoke him. That young man gives me a very terrifying feeling. He's the same as Jiwuri and Zhonghua. We can't provoke him. Not to mention these higher-ups of the Central Shrine. Even the demon doctor Wei Jing Lu, Ghost Eye King, and Six Pan King have caused us a lot of trouble. I don't understand why we have to be enemies with them. They only want to pass the test and have no intention of starting a war with us. Now, you guys have attacked crazily and killed their beasts, forcing them to form groups to protect themselves and declare war on us. Even if we win this battle, it will be a Pyrrhic victory. The problem is, even if we want to stop now, the other party isn't willing. The human-faced tiger also felt that this couldn't go on. Ghost Eye King and the others haven't trained their beasts yet. We still have a chance. The Toad King was the greediest among the demon beasts. If it wasn't for Burning Wind and Wan Mo who haven't passed the test in the Central Shrine, they would have counterattacked long ago. What they are truly afraid of are the 2 hall masters who are second only to Jiwuri. Also, that newbie is equally dangerous. The 3 leaders of the residents have already expressed that they don't care anymore. If you guys continue to die, other than becoming nourishment for the newborn beasts, there's no other possibility. The poisonous Wasp King announced that he wasn't willing to provoke Yu Yang anymore. At the same time, he also ordered his subordinates not to offend this future enemy. We really shouldn't touch that newbie for now. At least before we understand Pandora's box, We shouldn't act recklessly. But we must keep the Demon Doctor and Ghost Eye King here. We need to strengthen ourselves. The residents are getting stronger and stronger. If we don't do our best, we will be exterminated in the future. The human-faced tiger said worriedly. Isn't it because you guys are stupid to provoke Jiwuri and Zhonghua? In the end, your subordinates suffered heavy casualties. The poisonous Wasp King said angrily. Don't be noisy. We still have a certain advantage now. The Lion King quickly calmed them down. Yes, if the residents lose their beasts again, they will still obediently become our subordinates. That Demon Doctor, Ghost Eye King, and the others have already lost their beasts twice. As long as we put in a little more effort, they will completely lose the qualification to pass the trial and become our subordinates. If we miss this chance and don't kill them, wouldn't we be letting ourselves down? The Toad King tried his best to persuade the demon beasts to participate in his battle plan. Don't worry, we still have enough time. Those guys' beasts haven't truly matured yet. Even if they did, it won't be easy to pass through the Beast Valley. They aren't like Jiwuri and Zhonghua, who are almost like gods. Leon has pacified the leaders and barely managed to gather the beasts who had differing opinions and were like scattered sand on the same front. After the beasts dispersed, the Lion King was thinking about another question. What was the "don't say" that the dragon lizard said? Was this sentence a curse, or was it not a complete sentence? If he could figure out the truth of the curse and kill that abnormal rookie, it would undoubtedly greatly enhance his prestige as a leader. Of course, it was very dangerous. In the Beast Valley, there had been many strong challengers. Those people were terrifyingly strong. Once provoked, it was equivalent to suicide. Since there was no hope, it was better to be content with the status quo and not think too much. Otherwise, it would bring about a fatal disaster. In the Beast Valley, because of the terrifying curse triggered by Pandora's box, the entire place was filled with a wave of panic caused by the divine power of disaster. Within a radius of 100 miles, other than the unintelligent wild beasts, no one else dared to provoke Yu Yang. Even the skunk Scythe and dragon horse, who had been chasing, only followed from afar. They didn't dare to come within 10 kilometers of Yu Yang's activity center. Time passed day by day. The Reaper Mantis also grew day by day. Now, if she included the wings on her back, she had already grown to the size of a palm. The resident white deer, the red-eyed demon, the big-eared mouse, the flower-belly python, and the flying dragon lizard were nurtured with energy. Especially the first 4, as well as the 20 magical beasts that were killed during the ambush. The Reaper Mantis not only obtained battle energy, but also magical crystals. It was like a volcanic eruption for the initial growth of the Reaper Mantis. With such a boost, it was hard for her growth to slow down. Every day, the Reaper Mantis had a new breakthrough. Every day, there was a new advancement. In the entire Beast Valley, other than the skunk Scythe and dragon horse who had been following and observing along the way, no one else knew that this newborn beast growth had already surpassed everything. Her growth speed was much faster than the beasts that the other challengers had nurtured. 100 times faster, or even 100 times faster. Even if there were countless powerful people who came to the Beast Valley to challenge, Yu Yang's growth of the Reaper Mantis could be said to be unprecedented. As for the skunk Scythe and dragon horse, Yu Yang had already noticed them long ago, but he just ignored them. Sometimes, keeping 1 or 2 chess pieces would become the key to a good game. Not only did Yu Yang think this way, he even taught the Reaper Mantis this way. Yes, the Reaper Mantis nodded obediently. This time, she didn't completely understand. However, she had already memorized Yu Yang's words in her heart. What she didn't understand now, she would definitely understand when she had higher intelligence in the future. Chapter 859. It was the 15th day since they entered the Beast Valley. The Reaper Mantis, who was cultivating under the waterfall, shone with a 7-colored brilliance. The energy light pillar above her head crashed into the waterfall and caused the waterfall to flow in reverse. Countless splashes shot towards the sky, forming an incredible scene. The shock waves spread in all directions. This energy ring spread extremely quickly, But what was strange was that the surrounding flowers and trees were not harmed. The grazing deer, goats, cows, and horses were not startled, only raising their heads at the same time, gazing at the energy light pillar rising into the sky with reverent eyes. The Apache scythe and the dragon horse, who were resting under the shade of the tree, woke up from their dreams. They jumped to the top of the tree and looked at the golden energy light pillar that was pointing to the sky from afar. That golden light pillar was even higher than the small mountain with a waterfall hanging from it. It was even higher than the peak of the mountain. Although they were separated by more than 10 kilometers, the energy wave and majestic will still greatly shocked Itachi scythe and dragon horse. After a long time, they saw the golden light pillar disappear. Itachi scythe swallowed his saliva with difficulty. In 10 days, that newborn beast grew into a quasi-holy beast. After becoming a quasi-holy beast, she became a holy beast in just 5 days. The 5 major beast kings could not reach the holy beast realm in their entire lives. Unexpectedly, she achieved it in just half a month. What kind of potential does she have? Dragon Horse's voice trembled as it guessed. Maybe she was originally a holy beast. Impossible. No one would risk a holy beast. If a holy beast entered the door of rebirth, what if it was destroyed in its newborn stage? Itachi scythe waved his hands. He has Pandora's box and the protection of the disaster divine power. Why wouldn't he dare to take risks? Moreover, a person like him is not just a holy beast. I think he might have another divine beast. Otherwise, he would not be so familiar with cultivating a holy beast. Furthermore, cultivating a holy beast is obviously not the end. Hearing Dragon Horse's words, Itachi's scythe became silent. It seemed like that was the case. It was not as simple as cultivating a holy beast to pass the test. If he wanted to pass the Beast Valley, he could have left for the various tests after 5 days ago. With the intelligence of that newborn beast, the various tests after that would probably not be a problem for her, who had already become a quasi-holy beast. The quasi-holy beast was not satisfied and cultivated until it became a holy beast. It had only been half a month. How could the other party give up? Divine beasts were that newcomer's ultimate goal. In the Beast Valley, were there any challengers who could nurture divine beasts? Scythe looked at the dragon horse with a doubtful gaze. The dragon horse shook its head continuously. It had been trapped in the Beast Valley for thousands of years. It had never heard of anyone being able to raise a divine beast in the Beast Valley. Never. If this newcomer could really nurture a divine beast, what would happen to the Beast Valley? It was estimated that all the residents and the magical orcs who had been turned into magical orcs would not be enough to cultivate a mythological beast, even if they were added up. Dragon Horse signaled Itachi to hold his breath. This was not to guard against the vulture that often circled in the sky to spy for information. Although that fellow was gathering intelligence for Leonis, it never dared to get too close. Most of the time, it hurriedly flew across the sky. As long as it discovered that the target on the ground was still there, it would immediately return. The Itachi scythe slid into the canopy. Apart from merging with nature, he also put on a cloak of invisibility. An afterimage streaked across the sky, its speed as fast as a meteor. With the eyesight of the dragon horse and the Itachi scythe, it was actually very difficult for them to catch the shadow. However, what the dragon horse discovered was the huge target in the shadow's hand. It was the vulture, whose body was made of stiff wood. With a human head, butterfly wings, and a bee's body, this was one of the 5 magical beast leaders, the Poisonous Bee King. However, why did the Poisonous Bee King capture the vulture alive? Not only did it capture the vulture alive, what the dragon horse and the Itachi scythe did not understand was why it flew over the waterfall. Could it be that it was not afraid of the curse of the divine power of disaster? Today is really a good day. Another guest has come. At the side of the small pool beside the waterfall, Yiyang was leisurely washing his feet with clear water while lazily lying on a rock to bask in the sun. He was enjoying the gentle massage of the Reaper Mantis's soft fists on his shoulders. Occasionally, he would even open his mouth to eat a crystal grape that the Reaper Mantis fed him. There are many kinds of guests. The poisonous bee king threw the vulture, whose body was made of stiff wood, on the ground. What kind of guest do you belong to? Yu Yang asked with a smile. I am different from the previous guests who came to die to help your beast level up. I belong to the kind that can be trusted and cooperated with. The poisonous bee king landed on the rock beside Yu Yang and pointed at the vulture, whose body was stiff but not dead. He smiled lightly and said, This is my first meeting gift to you. If you are willing to trust me, I will show more sincerity. You can trust me. Before your beast evolves into a divine beast, I will do my best to help you achieve this wish. All right, can you tell me the reason? Yu Yang laughed and said, Don't tell me that you are the living lay foam of the Beast Valley who naturally likes to do good deeds for free. I only want one thing. The poisonous bee king's expression suddenly became serious. What is it? Yu Yang asked. At this moment, the dragon horse and the Itachi scythe, who had sneaked 3 kilometers away, pricked up their ears. They want to know what kind of deal the poisonous bee king would make with this young man. Was it to assassinate the Lion King and take the position of the leader of the 5 major beast kings? Or was it to defeat the double-headed black dragon that was guarding the wisdom fruit and obtain the wisdom fruit to increase his intelligence? No matter what the conditions were, they believed that it would be an earth-shattering deal that would change the entire situation in the Beast Valley. The poisonous Snake King pondered for a while. In the end, it said something that almost made the Itachi scythe and the dragon horse scream. I want freedom. I don't want anything. I just want freedom. Freedom. This was something that every poor person in the heaven realm did not lack. Even those ant-like subsidiary races that were below Earth rank had freedom. Perhaps those people's freedom was discounted and could not be considered true freedom. However, even that kind of discounted freedom was a luxury that all life in the Beast Valley yearned for, but could never obtain. The Beast Valley had everything and did not lack anything. The only thing that they did not have was freedom. The dragon horse and the Itachi scythe thought that they had forgotten this phrase, but now that they heard it, they could not help but burst into tears. When a person had freedom, he would never know how precious it was. When that person lost his freedom, only then would he understand how precious it was. Freedom. This was something that anyone could have. However, once it was lost, it could not be exchanged for even the entire world. It was so precious that there was no treasure in the world that could be exchanged for it. There was nothing that could replace it. Only those who had lost their freedom would understand that a person could have nothing. They could have no money, no house, no comfortable life, no wealth that could rival a country, no fame that could shake the world, and even the wonderful love that everyone yearned for. However, they could not lose their freedom. Those who had freedom would never understand the pain of losing it. Those who lost their freedom were the abandoned children of fate. They were the products eliminated by time. They were the sand in the river of history. They were the most painful and despairing existence in the world. That kind of terror could only be described with one word: total darkness. Yu Yang laughed. Do you think I will agree? Even if I agree, do you think I have a way to give you freedom? This is the Beast Valley. The poisonous bee king covered her face with her hands and sobbed softly. You are the proud son of the heavens. You will never understand how hard it was for me to struggle all these years. For 6,000 years, in order to survive, I changed from a kind woman who never killed to a poisonous bee king that the Beast Valley was terrified of. The number of people I killed all these years was several times more than the number of people I knew in the first half of my life. However, even in the most desperate times, the desire for freedom had never left my heart for even half a second. It was the light that illuminated my arduous journey. In order for me to obtain freedom, my father and husband both fell in front of me. They used their lives to open a bloody path for me, and at the same time, they placed their hopes on me. In order for me to smoothly advance on the path of freedom, my chaste mother compromised and served the enemy for decades. It was only when I grew up and had the power to protect myself that she committed suicide in front of me. Yu Yang still shook his head. I sympathize with your experience. However, the Beast Valley has its own rules. I'm sorry, I can't help you. The poisonous bee king quickly wiped away her tears and waved her hands. Regarding this, I know a secret. About 6,000 years ago, before I had fully matured, when I was extremely wary of everything around me, a godlike man came to me. He told me a condition. As long as I could form a contract with a holy beast and become a beast under the holy beast command, I could leave with him. However, I was still a resident at that time. Because I was wary of that godlike man, I rejected his good intentions in the end. At that time, I was still a resident with two chances. I had to commit suicide and become a beast to form a contract with him. I missed it. Who would have thought that I would wait for 6,000 years? Yu Yang asked curiously. Then how did you dare to trust me? Do you think I am trustworthy? The poisonous bee king paused for a moment. If I were to become enemies with you, it would indeed be a very scary thing. You are not a kind and humble gentleman. On the contrary, your decisive attitude and the way you treat your enemies like ants makes people tremble from the bottom of their hearts. However, if I could become your friend, I believe that it would be a very fortunate thing. For my freedom, I am willing to take the risk and trust you this once. After all, you're the best partner I have met in these 6,000 years. There's another reason why I am willing to trust you. The poisonous bee king stared into Yu Yang's eyes. That day, that godlike man, his aura was very similar to yours. Maybe you two are not relatives, but you two are definitely the same person and came from the same place. What's the name of that person you were talking about? Yu Yang asked. That godlike man is called Jean Phone. I have heard that his enemies call him Prison Emperor. The poisonous bee king could never forget this name and the back view that sighed as he left. It's him again. Yu Yang was a little unhappy. Why did Prison Emperor have so many people who knew him? It had been 6,000 years, but they still couldn't forget him. He was really a sentimental person. However, since he was related to the Prison Emperor, Yu Yang was embarrassed to reject him. No matter what, the Prison Emperor Divine Seal that he usually used to smash chestnuts, the Prison Emperor Divine Sword in Tigress's hands, and the Prison Emperor Divine Staff in Wu Xia's hand were all left behind by that guy. If he didn't give him any face after getting these treasures for free, it would be a little unreasonable. Forget it. I will just treat it as doing good deeds to build up my character. Yu Yang raised his last question. Your parents and husband have died here, and you have been trapped here for 6,000 years. Even if you have any relatives, they should be dead by now. Is there still any meaning in going out? The poisonous bee king's eyes flashed with longing. I promised them that I would definitely bring their ashes back to my hometown to be buried. I also promised my mother that I would definitely pass the clan's important keepsake to my sister, pass the throne to her, and let her lead the bee clan to glory. If my sister is no longer here, then the throne will be passed on to her descendants. Not only do I carry the hopes of my family to live on, I also long for the day that I can leave this place. Even if it's just for one day of freedom. Let me see the sky of freedom outside, see the home that I once lived in, then I will die without regrets. Die without regrets as long as I have freedom for one day. This sentence caused Yu Yang's Ji Zun willpower to tremble slightly. Maybe he couldn't help with other things, but this kind of hope and belief that she had held on for 6,000 years, and he could agree to it with just a nod, was worth considering. Woo woo woo. Hearing the poisonous bee king's words, the Reaper Mantis was extremely touched, and its small face was a mess of tears. Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe also cried like rain. If it wasn't for the fact that they were afraid of exposing their tracks, they would have cried out loud. Freedom. This was the freedom that they didn't even dare to dream of. If they could regain their freedom, as long as they could live happily under the sky of freedom for one day, then they could really die without regrets. In their blurry eyes, the two of them understood the glint in each other's eyes at the same time. I want freedom too. Chapter 860. Poisonous Bee King suddenly used a secret transmission. Yu Yang even used some heaven runes to help with the conversation. Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe, who were watching from afar, were dumbfounded. Needless to say, They could not hear the secret transmission. However, they could not understand the heaven rune circle that they could see clearly. Actually, Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe did not know anything about heaven runes. They could recognize a lot of individual heaven runes, but after forming a circle, they could only stare blankly. What were they discussing? It must be about cooperation. The problem was, how would Poisonous Bee King and this young man cooperate? What kind of plan would they have? They talked for about 10 minutes. The Poisonous Bee King, who had finished negotiating with Yu Yang, spread its wings and flew away from the waterfall area. Intentionally or unintentionally, it glanced at Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe, scaring them so much that their hearts almost stopped beating. Poisonous Bee King's strength was as high as Heaven Rank Level 6. It was definitely not something that Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe could fight against. It was not impossible for it to capture them as a gift like Vulture. Fortunately, Poisonous Bee King only glanced at them casually and quickly flew away. On the other hand, the Reaper Mantis killed off the unlucky and numb Vulture. Anyway, this was an energy tonic sent by Poisonous Bee King. It would be a waste if it was not used. In order to become stronger, Reaper Mantis trained very hard, hoping to reach the standards of its master. Of course, she also understood how big the gap between Holy Beast and Divine Beast was. It was a chasm that could not be crossed. Other than hard work, it also needed enough luck. Golden Crown Thorny Flower Queen Duo, Jiang Ying, Hong and Aman were all extremely talented, but they also paid a lot of blood and sweat to get to where they were today. She still had a long way to go to catch up with Duo, Hong, and the others. Not to mention little one Li, who was born with a diamond grimoire. Let's follow the plan. Yu Yang let Reaper Mantis stop training for a day and brought her through the waterfall towards the middle of the Beast Valley. Dragon Horse and Itachi Scythe looked at each other. Should he continue to follow, or should he give up? If he gave up now, his life would be guaranteed. If there were no accidents, he could continue living in the Beast Valley. However, what the two of them wanted now was not safety, but something that they yearned for even in their dreams, and that was freedom. They did not know if they could obtain freedom if they followed this young man. After all, they were not the venomous Wasp King, and they were not the person that the young man had promised to help. If she followed behind him, she might one day become a tonic like Vulture. However, if he didn't keep up, freedom would leave him forever. For the sake of the freedom that they yearned for but could not obtain, the two of them gritted their teeth and nodded at each other. For the sake of the slim hope, they would fight it out. Beast Valley. Of course, it was not a valley, but a huge, independent world. It was even larger than the Rain Valley, Wind Valley, Sand Valley, and Desire Valley combined. Strictly speaking, it could be divided into 5 major regions. Apart from the 3 regions with relatively vile environments that very few people set foot in, the other 2 regions each had 2 kinds of governing forces that were equally matched. They were the residents led by the 3 leaders, and the magical beastmen led by the 5 beast kings. Lion King, Eagle King, Human-Faced Tiger King, Toad King, and Venomous Wasp King were the 5 beast kings. Each of them had a different number of magical orcs under their rule. They gathered together for their common interests with a lax management style. Among them, Lion King was the strongest, while Eagle King was the weakest. Because each Beast King had different strengths, the magical orcs that failed and became magical orcs would seek refuge with different people. The more ferocious carnivorous magical orcs mostly sought refuge with Lion King, while the flying magical orcs were more willing to seek refuge with Eagle King. Of course, there were also many examples of vultures that volunteered to serve Lion King. According to the classification, ferocious beasts mostly sought refuge with Lion King. Birds preferred Eagle King. Reptiles mostly sought refuge with Toad King. Aquatic beasts were the subordinates of Human-Faced Tiger King, and insect-type beasts were the symbol of Venomous Wasp King. Other than the 5 major factions, there were also some stragglers in the Beast Valley. They were either not strong enough to gain the recognition of the 5 major factions, or they were strong enough to survive on their own. The 5 major factions had a total of more than 3,000 magical beasts. However, Less than half of them could be directly commanded by the Beast Kings. After all, most of the magical orcs were just nominal. The number of residents was less than 1,000. They were under the control of the 3 leaders. However, they were generally stronger than the magical orcs. Hence, in terms of authority, the residents had more authority than the magical orcs. In the initial region of the Beast Valley, there were mainly the Beast Valley Fortress and the activities of some stragglers. The living conditions there were the easiest. At the same time, the resources and training environment there were far inferior to the middle region of the Beast Valley. As for the back region, there was the Bloodflower Forest where the Beast Valley's teleportation gate was located. That was a death zone that no one dared to take lightly. The living conditions there were extremely bad. Many residents clearly knew that there were wisdom fruits in the Bloodflower Forest. If they could obtain them, it would allow their beasts to develop intelligence and successfully pass the trial. However, they did not dare to go there. This was because there was a 2-headed black dragon guarding the wisdom fruit. If one did not have enough power, going there to obtain the fruit would only be sending food to the 2-headed black dragon, improving its diet. The Itachi scythe and the dragon horse chased after him. They followed Yu Yang's figure from afar and entered the middle region that they rarely entered. At dusk, Yu Yang seemed to be unaware of the danger around him as he slowly walked forward. There was a wild, poisonous python that had been lying in ambush at the back of the forest for a long time. It suddenly launched a sneak attack, intending to swallow the Reaper Mantis whole. It opened its bloody mouth and bit down fiercely. The Itachi scythe and the dragon horse saw it and wanted to warn it. However, they were afraid that if they did so, they would not be of any help to the battle and would instead expose themselves. Whoosh! The Reaper Mantis waved its mantis arm that was gradually evolving into a blood scythe. In the sky, it drew 2 diagonally crossed rose patterns. The wild poisonous python paused. Its long neck seemed to be frozen in time as it froze in midair. In an instant, the 2 roses passed by. In an instant, its head was separated from its body. There was a perfect cut at the place where the neck was broken. Dark red blood sprayed out crazily. Heaven ranked level 2. It was instantly killed by the Reaper Mantis. Its huge body fell to the ground with a loud bang. Blood rose. Oh my god. She really changed my lightning cross kill into the shape of a cross rose. These 2 blood roses that cut through the sky and killed the enemy in an instant are really too beautiful. Itachi Scythe looked and could not help but mutter to himself. It was the creator of the lightning cross kill. On that basis, it had researched to the realm of cross instant kill. Itachi Scythe thought that was already the limit of battle skills. He did not expect that in just 5 days, this little thing, under the guidance of that young man, had reached the realm of cross blood rose. This made him, who had researched this ultimate skill for thousands of years, really want to bang his head on the ground and die. Even between people, there was a difference. But there was no need for the difference to be so big, right? Yu Yang shook his head with a little dissatisfaction. Although the blood rose was successful, it was still far from his requirement of every petal required 9 spatial cuts, and the whole thing was added with the cross rune circle. But today was a holiday. The attack just now was just a counterattack outside of training, so he did not criticize it strictly. He stretched out his big hand and caressed the Reaper Mantis's little head after it was reborn. After the Reaper Mantis became a holy beast, its body had completely transformed into a human. Its insect limbs no longer existed. She looked like a petite and adorable little human. The only difference between her and an ordinary human was that her wings were preserved. Her golden wings had evolved into rainbow-like wings of light. At first, she thought that her master would give her a harsh criticism. Who would have thought that he would just caress her little head? This time, she was really touched. She couldn't help but stick out her little pink tongue mischievously. Then, she happily flew onto Yu Yang's shoulder and lightly pounded his shoulder with her little fists. She had learned bad things from Hui Tai Lang, who loved to flatter. One must know that other than Grey Wolf, no one else liked to flatter Yu Yang like she did. The Reaper Mantis was encouraged by Yu Yang to actively hunt and train its fighting skills. Except for the blood rose. There was also the deer-cutting lift that was secretly learned from white deer and improved by Yu Yang, the Mad Demon 18 slashes that was secretly learned from Itachi's scythe, the sonic boom and reverse finger spinning strike that were secretly learned from Red-Eyed Demon, and even the berserk explosive flames that was secretly learned from Toad King's Ice Sword Storm. The fighting skills that she secretly learned, after improvement and understanding, were completely better than her master. It was just that some of the attributes were opposite and not necessarily the same as the original creators. Dragon Horse and Itachi's scythe also noticed one thing. That cute little thing had been learning a mysterious skill, which seemed to be taught by that young man. But she had never used it, and they did not know if she deliberately hid it or if she had not reached the basic standards to use it. 3 days later, everything was calm, as if everyone had forgotten about Yu Yang. Even the poisonous bee king that had sneaked over and boldly discussed cooperation with Yu Yang was nowhere to be seen. Dragon Horse and Itachi's scythe felt that something was wrong. This did not seem to be peaceful, but a bit like the calm before the storm. Should they retreat to avoid getting themselves into trouble? After a mental struggle, Dragon Horse and Itachi scythe finally clenched their teeth and persevered. Freedom was like the dawn, luring them, making them unwilling to turn around and leave. And there were two people who did not feel lonely in their hearts. Although they were not best friends, standing on the same side, they seemed to be able to comfort each other and share their fears. If there was only one person, then they would definitely not be able to persevere anymore. Yu Yang came to the middle section of the Beast Valley, brought the Reaper Mantis, and came to the real first test of the Beast Valley, the Spirit Beast Hall. This was the first test of the War Beast, and it was unknown how many War Beasts of the challengers have been eliminated here. The first test was actually very simple. There were only 3 things to do. This was what all the challengers and War Beasts knew, but they were unable to complete it. It was obvious that they could not complete it. The first thing the War Beast had to do was to enter the Spirit Beast Hall of the first test and take out the token that represented the War Beast's identity. This had to be done by the War Beast alone. No matter how strong the Master was, he could not provide any help. This was also the most difficult test. Chapter 861. Welcome, welcome. When Yu Yang brought the Reaper Mantis to the first trial hall, the Toad King was already waiting in front of the hall. It patted its belly and let out an extremely unpleasant laughter that made people want to vomit. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that other people's farts were 100 times better than its laughter. It's you, this toad? What do you want? Yu Yang knew that this fellow definitely didn't have any good intentions. I came here with good intentions to remind you that if you fail the first trial, your beast will be punished by the law and die. The first trial is the place where most challengers fail. Young man, I wish you good luck. The Toad King's ugly lips kept opening and closing, letting out a burst of laughter. It didn't wait for Yu Yang to speak and immediately turned to leave, as if it was afraid that Yu Yang would cast a curse. Before leaving, it even turned back and pretended to remind him. Although the law of the Beast Valley will protect the challengers, but even if it's in the chest hall, it's not a safe area for beasts. This is the information I'm giving you for free. If there's something in the chest hall that attacks your beast when it's pushing the chest, don't blame me for not reminding you. Ha ha ha. The Toad King laughed loudly as he left, bringing along an extremely unpleasant stench. Yu Yang muttered to himself. In the end, he signaled the Reaper Mantis to enter the chest hall to participate in the trial. Dragon Horse and Itachi's scythe, who were hiding at the back, were anxious. Should they tell him the truth in the chest hall? If they appeared now and told him the truth in the chest hall, the Toad King and the others who were lying in ambush would definitely find out. However, if they didn't go out and tell him, if that little guy failed the trial, Dragon Horse and Itachi's scythe were caught in a dilemma. If this young man failed, then what freedom was there to talk about? Hope definitely couldn't be destroyed in front of them. It wasn't easy for such a young man to come. Dragon Horse signaled Itachi, scythe, not to appear. After all, as a resident, he still had one chance for his beast to die. He decided to stand out and tell Yu Yang about the trap in the Great Spirit Beast God. Even if he would be attacked by the Toad King and the others afterwards, he couldn't care less. Itachi's scythe also gritted his teeth. It stared at the direction where the Toad King disappeared. If the dragon horse was attacked, it wouldn't hesitate to rush out to stop it and help it escape. In the past, it would have been impossible. But today it was on the same side as the dragon horse. They had to fight for the hope in their hearts, for the freedom that they dreamed of. "What are you doing here?" A beautiful and melodious voice rang out behind the dragon horse and the ferret's scythe. Although the voice was as beautiful as the sounds of nature, the two of them felt a chill run down their spines. It was as if there was a chill running down their spines from the back of their heads, all the way down to their heels. It was the venomous Wasp King. Her hands were gently pressing on the backs of Dragon Horse and Itachi the Scythe. With her strength, as long as she wanted, she could turn the two of them into stiff living dead, like Vulture at any time. The poisonous Wasp King's stinger was one of the best in the Beast Valley. As long as one was hit by it, death was certain. The Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe were both stunned. All of a sudden, they didn't know what to do. The poisonous Wasp King suddenly retracted his hands and snorted, hiding your head and showing your tail. You think that your tracking technique is very covert. In fact, it's not even a fart. Even a blind person can see through it. However, I am in a good mood today. As long as you don't meddle, I can temporarily leave my head on your necks. Remember, look more, talk less, don't do anything. You don't need to speak here, and it's not your turn to speak, understand? There seemed to be a shadow flashing in the distance. The poisonous Wasp King immediately stopped talking. He held his breath, as if he was invisible. Standing behind the Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe, it was as if he didn't exist. Compared to the Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe, their concealment ability was many times stronger. The poisonous Wasp King moved silently and disappeared quickly, as if he had never appeared. The Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe were covered in cold sweat. This battlefield would be a dialogue between experts. With their strength, other than watching, they might not be able to change anything. A tall shadow rushed over from afar. It was a 6-meter tall Cyclops. The Cyclops had the strength of a heaven-ranked level 4. Although it wasn't very high, from the flickering light in its eyes, one could tell that its intelligence wasn't low. At the very least, it was smarter and more cunning than a normal Cyclops. The Cyclops didn't even look at Yu Yang and directly rushed into the Spirit Beast Hall. Question mark. Yu Yang felt a little strange. Did they need to queue up for the Beast Valley's test? There were actually people fighting over it. The Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe knew what was going on. In the Spirit Beast Hall, there were hundreds of chests of different materials, distributed in the upper, middle, and lower levels. Among them, there were 5 types of chests that were the most precious. Opening, it would allow one to obtain a badge that represented the beast's identity. The higher the grade of the 5 elements chest you opened, the higher the grade of the token you obtained. Of course, the higher the level of the chest, the harder it was to find and open it. The best chests required the help of a companion to open some specific mechanisms. For example, there were some spatial doors that would automatically close after entering. If a single beast entered, it would never be able to come out. In this way, it needed a trustworthy companion to open the door from the outside. Similarly, there was another kind of space door that would not open again once someone entered it. There was even a type of spatial door that would not open if someone stood on top of some mechanisms. It could be said that the Spirit Beast Hall was a place where it was easy to trap the enemy and required the support of a companion to test. Unless it was the easiest to get a normal badge from the first level of the Spirit Beast Hall. That way, the reward would be the least. Moreover, it was easy to be punished. In the first level of the Spirit Beast Hall, there were many wooden chests. Some of these wooden chests needed to be placed in a certain shape in order to successfully open the door. If it was placed incorrectly, or if the wooden chest was broken, the consequences would be very serious. There was a 50% chance that the ancient code would randomly send 10 wild beasts from the Beast Valley in. There was a 30% chance that lightning would fall. There was only a 20% chance that they would be safe and not be punished. The Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe didn't need to guess to know that the Cyclops definitely wanted to ambush them on the first level, deliberately luring them to break the chest. If this didn't kill the enemy, then it would rush to the second level and stand on top of some mechanisms to block the way. It might even run into the third level's spatial door in advance, not letting the enemy enter and forcing them to choose a normal badge. This kind of trick had been used many times in the Beast Valley. Everyone knew how to harm others, but no one had a good solution. Maybe it's not just the Cyclops. It's just a target that the Toad King purposely exposed. The Dragon Horse wasn't worried about the Cyclops. Maybe she has a solution. The Weasel Scythe comforted himself. That little thing had extremely high intelligence. How could the identity test of the Spirit Beast Hall be difficult for her? Even if there was a Cyclops messing around, she would probably be able to pass the test easily. She was an existence that could become a holy beast in 10 to 15 days. It wasn't an ordinary beast at all. Moreover, this was only the first stage, and it was also the easiest to pass in the first stage. Yu Yang calmly sat on the steps of the Spirit Beast Hall. He took out a mat and slept comfortably. He didn't look like the master of the beast, but more like a lazy examiner. The Reaper Mantis tilted her head and thought. After a while, she slowly flew into the Spirit Beast Hall. No one told her what to do, and no one could help her. In the Spirit Beast Hall, she could only rely on her own hard work. The Toad King's huge shadow flashed in a faraway direction. It was confirming the Reaper Mantis's movements, confirming that she had entered the Spirit Beast Hall and immediately left with a peace of mind. According to the Dragon Horse and the Weasel Scythe's experience, they realized that the ugly Toad King didn't really leave. It only hid in the second test of the first stage. In reality, that was indeed the case. The Toad King had already prepared a foolproof plan to destroy the Reaper Mantis. He had set up layers after layers of obstructions, each more fatal than the other. In order to kill this sacred beast with limitless potential, in order to wash away his humiliation and to re-establish his prestige as the Beast King, the Toad King had already decided that he would not rest until he killed the little Reaper Mantis. Spirit Beast Hall. Other than the Cyclops that rushed in, there was also a shadow that peeked its head out. Seeing that Yu Yang was sleeping soundly, it also sneaked in quietly. The Reaper Mantis didn't care about the Cyclops or her. It only maintained its cautiousness and sneaked in quietly. The space inside was surprisingly big. Other than the necessary passageways and corridors, most of the space was separated into rooms. These rooms were similar, but the door numbers were different. In every room, there were boxes of different sizes. The Reaper Mantis tried to use her thoughts to move a big box out. In the end, what made her feel strange was that the other room's door was closed. And when she put the big box back, the other room's door opened again. These should be houses with balanced weights. The Reaper Mantis got this answer. When she walked to the front of a mechanism bridge, she immediately understood why there were boxes in the room. These boxes were used to increase weight. When she put a big box on a mechanism at the end of the bridge that looked like a broken bridge immediately extended by 1 meter. The Reaper Mantis threw a stone, but in the end, it was mercilessly shattered by the laws of space. Looks like, other than moving enough boxes, it was impossible to cross this mechanism bridge using any other methods. If she didn't use the mechanism bridge, she could use another path. There were many corridors here. Among them, at the end of a corridor, the Cyclops just happened to poke his head out and took a look at the Reaper Mantis. The Reaper Mantis remembered her master's teachings. No matter what situation she encountered, she must be calm and vigilant. She must observe her surroundings and use her wisdom to formulate a strategy. Combining her brain and hands, defeating the enemy was 100 times easier than using brute force to defeat the enemy. Thinking of this, her eyes became determined. On her little face, a sunny smile that Yu Yang usually had appeared. Any enemy who saw this smile would feel fear from the bottom of their hearts, because this smile was actually 100 times more terrifying than the smile of a devil. Come on. The Reaper Mantis clenched her little fist and gave herself a boost. She floated towards a corridor where the Cyclops disappeared. With her master's teachings, in this world, what difficulty could she not face? She must work hard. She must work harder than Red, on Man and Duo. She must catch up with them as soon as possible. She must not let her master down. Come on, come on. With a strong fighting spirit, the Reaper Mantis began to move. Chapter 862. Turning around the corridor. The situation was different from when she first entered. In the spacious space, there were obvious traps, a freezing pond, and flame nozzles in the shape of a beast's mouth. According to the terrain, she had to avoid triggering the traps. After triggering the traps, the consequences would be dire. Not to mention the Reaper Mantis, even an idiot would not fall for it. Only an idiot who was blind would fall for such an obvious trick. The most obvious flaw was that there would be shallow footprints every certain distance on the ground. Those were the footprints of the Cyclops. These footprints had an obvious attempt to cover up. Most of them were made by tiptoeing on the ground. The Cyclops was so tall, yet there were only a few footprints. If one did not observe carefully enough, they would not have noticed. The Reaper Mantis followed the footprints and flew slowly. She realized that there were faint traces of her flight behind her. Even though she was floating without flapping her wings, the flight path was still clear. The Reaper Mantis fell into deep thought. Could it be that all living creatures would leave traces behind when they passed through? Leaving a trail seemed to be useless, and it would even expose the target. Why did this happen? The test in the spiritual beast hall was definitely not useless. There must be some secret that needed to be unraveled. Carefully moving forward for tens of meters, it turned into a winding tunnel. The Reaper Mantis did not trigger any traps, and the Cyclops did not see it either. However, there were actually two choices in front of it. Two entrances to the long corridor. Both entrances had traces left behind by the Cyclops, as well as traces of her flight. What was going on? Even if she had returned to the starting point, she should have only walked through one corridor. One of the entrances must be fake. But which one was fake? Question mark. The Reaper Mantis fell into deep thought again. Roar, roar. The roar of the Cyclops could be heard from one of the corridors. Following that, a black object flew over. The Reaper Mantis dodged instinctively. There was a loud rumble. The black thing that smashed into the ground was a heavy boulder. Before the Reaper Mantis could see it clearly, another black object flew over at an even faster speed. The boulder seemed to be a weight-measuring mechanism. Once it exceeded the weight, the door outside would be automatically closed. This thought flashed across the Reaper Mantis's mind. She immediately reacted and condensed an energy ball in her hand. It flew towards the second black object. Hidden in the darkness, a sinister smile appeared on the ugly face of the Cyclops. This smart-alecky little guy was dead for sure. Even if she was more careful and cautious, without experiencing the mechanisms and traps of the Spirit Beast Hall, how could she know the cruelty of this place? The faint light emitted by the energy ball illuminated the sinister face of the Cyclops, as well as the true body of the second shadow. It was a wooden chest that the Cyclops had moved away at some point in time. Due to the fragility of the wooden box, let alone an energy sphere, even a sneeze from a heaven-rank magic beast would shatter it. The energy ball flew over and hit the wooden chest. The Cyclops saw that it was a fait accompli and was certain that nothing would change. Only then did he quickly retreat. His speed was 1,000 times faster than when he had been walking on his feet. Once the wooden box was destroyed by the energy ball, the shockwave would definitely trigger the mechanisms that were clearly exposed. With the power of the mechanism, as well as the punishment of breaking the wooden box, that little guy was definitely dead for sure. As the Cyclops retreated, it even threw out a dozen wooden boxes that it had secretly stored away with an ingenious force. If the wooden boxes exploded at the same time, even if there was only a 30% chance of being struck by lightning, he would definitely be hit. The Cyclops was secretly pleased. Why did the Toad King specifically choose him to kill? The reason was simple. It was because he was smarter. Who could have imagined that under such an ugly and foolish appearance, he was actually so meticulous in his schemes? In the familiar Spirit Beast Hall, he did not know how many newborn beasts he had successfully killed here. The Spirit Beast Hall was simply his best hunting ground. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion occurred in front of him. The thermal shock wave from the explosion, as well as the rubble, even flew towards the door of the room that the Cyclops was retreating from. Success! The Cyclops was overjoyed. She dared to use such a powerful energy ball in the Spirit Beast Hall for a test. She was simply courting death. It suppressed the urge to go out and see how the little guy would die, and stayed in the room. When the series of explosions gradually died down, the sounds of thunder and lightning disappeared, and there seemed to be the roars of a group of beasts. When all the sounds disappeared, the Cyclops whistled and walked out of the room. It could conclude that the newborn beast was definitely dead, because this was a very simple reasoning. When the wooden box was broken by the energy ball, the shockwave of the explosion not only shattered the wooden boxes that were flying towards it, but also triggered the obvious mechanisms and traps. The power of the mechanisms and traps was already enough to heavily injure the little guy. In addition, the boxes had a 30% chance of being struck by lightning. As for the cries of the beasts, it was even simpler. Those were wild beasts that had a 50% chance of being randomly teleported in after breaking the wooden boxes. As long as the target died, those beasts that were randomly teleported in would be teleported away. This was why they were quiet for a while. Without even looking, the Cyclops knew that the cautious little guy was already died under its ingenious plan. How many beasts had it killed in this corridor of the Mirror House? 100 or 200? The Cyclops could no longer remember. Right now, it only wanted to get out as soon as possible, find the Toad King, and collect its share of the reward. That was 100 high-quality heaven-rank magic crystals. With that reward, he would be able to break through and advance from heaven rank level 4 to heaven rank level 5. He would also be able to survive in the Beast Valley with more power and safety. The Cyclops laughed proudly as it inspected the masterpiece that it had painstakingly set up. It enjoyed the glory of victory and the pride of its superior intelligence. When it was laughing the happiest, suddenly, its laughter was like a knife cutting through. An unbelievable scene. It appeared in front of its single eye. Xiao Budian, who was already doomed to die, was still alive and well. Under her feet, there were more than 10 wooden boxes, and all the triggered mechanisms were still there. Other than a huge rock that had been smashed into pieces, nothing else had changed. How was this possible? It clearly saw the energy ball explode on the wooden boxes. As if seeing through the one-eyed giant's confusion, the Reaper Mantis revealed a smile similar to his master Yu Yang's after his rebirth. Her little hand condensed an energy ball that emitted a faint radiance. Through this weak light that wasn't glaring at all, the Cyclops suddenly had a trace of understanding. Why did this little guy condense an energy ball? Her main purpose was not to attack, but to illuminate. Through the light, she could see that the second object she threw was a wooden box and not a huge rock. Then why did she use the energy ball to smash the wooden box? The Reaper Mantis gave the answer. With a point of its small finger, a wooden box flew up and floated in the air. The energy ball flew over with a whoosh. After hitting the wooden box, not only did it not explode, but it also refracted. The energy ball bounced off the wooden box like a bouncy ball, bouncing back and forth in the corridor. However, it was very ingenious and did not hit any of the traps. In the end, the energy ball that had been flying for a long time returned to the hands of the Reaper Mantis, as if it had never been thrown. The Cyclops understood now. This energy ball was under the opponent's control. As long as this little guy was willing, she could do whatever she wanted. It would not explode or smash the wooden box. If it couldn't smash the wooden box, then where did the shockwave, gravel, and thunder that triggered the traps come from? It even heard the roar of a ferocious beast just now. That was not an illusion. The Reaper Mantis smiled again. She turned her body and kicked the energy ball that was floating in the air. The energy ball smashed a hole in the ground where the huge rock had been. Gravel flew in front of the Cyclops. The energy ball exploded and a shockwave from the explosion spread out. However, just like the ripples on the surface of water, no matter what obstacles it encountered, it would not cause any impact. Instead, a second ripple would form and spread out again. This was the shockwave that the one-eyed giant saw and felt. When it was dumbfounded, it raised its head and looked again. It realized that every time the Reaper Mantis flicked her fingers, there would be a loud explosion of different sizes in the shockwave field controlled by her will. These explosions were also controlled by her will. Although the sound was earth-shattering, it miraculously did not cause any impact. The Reaper Mantis pointed her fingers continuously. Every time she pointed, there would be a bolt of lightning exploding in the energy field. It was not the sound of a wooden box being smashed. As for the roar of 100 beasts, it was an exquisite golden whistle in the mouth of the Reaper Mantis. When she took it out and blew, there would be all kinds of beasts roaring one after another. This is the golden whistle that commands the beasts. It is the treasure of the poisonous Wasp King. Where did you get it? The Cyclops shouted in shock. Hee. The Reaper Mantis did not reply. Her smile made the Cyclops feel like a fool. The fight between the Beast Kings was the eternal theme of the Beast Valley. It turned out that it had become a pawn of the Toad King. No wonder it promised 100 heaven-ranked magic crystals as a reward. It was a reward that it never intended to pay. The Cyclops felt bitter in its heart. Between the Beast Kings, no matter who won, as a pawn, it would not have a good ending. It would not benefit it no matter if this smart little thing was killed or if she escaped. The Cyclops wanted to speak and withdraw from the battle. Suddenly, it saw the murderous intent in the eyes of the Reaper Mantis. This little thing was angry. Not good. The Cyclops originally had absolute confidence, but after the Reaper Mantis's perfect deception, it realized that her true strength was far beyond its estimation. If it were to fight with her in this mirror house corridor, it was hard to say who would be the winner. Retreat. No matter if it won or not, there would not be a good ending. It was better to retreat. The Cyclops did not want to continue fighting. Relying on its familiarity with the terrain, it quickly bypassed the traps and fled to the other end of the mirror house corridor. When it turned the corner of the corridor and was about to turn out of the main hall and leave the Spirit Beast Hall, it suddenly saw the strange scene that the Reaper Mantis saw when it came in. Why were there two entrances to the corridor in front of it? It was clearly leaving. Could it be that the little guy had seen through his trap and had reset the layout of the corridor? Crack, crack. The Cyclops stopped in its tracks and heard a cracking sound under its feet. It looked down and realized that there was a wooden box under its feet. The worst thing was it was broken. The Cyclops jumped up in shock. Pack, pack. It realized that there were also pieces falling on its head. It looked up and saw that there was also a wooden box hanging above it. It smashed it with its head. No. Not only did it fail to set up the enemy, it was also set up by the enemy. An energy ball hit it. It did not reflect like it did when it hit the wooden box. Instead, it created a strong impact, causing the shocked Cyclops to take 3 steps back. When the Cyclops steadied itself, it realized that it had stepped on a trap in the mouth of a beast. Raging flames shot up to the sky and hit him right in the face. The Cyclops was blinded on the spot. It was an excruciating pain. Its huge body that was on fire stumbled and struggled in the corridor. One by one, it stepped on the traps that would not fall for. Flames, poisonous smoke, lightning, and frost. The Cyclops fell for all kinds of traps. No one was spared. At the exit of the long corridor, the Reaper Mantis smiled and gave a cool back view to the one-eyed giant who fell into his trap instead of his scheme. She picked up the golden whistle and blew it gently. The magical beasts that were teleported in lost their minds as soon as they heard the whistle. Their eyes turned red, and they all pounced on the Cyclops. Chapter 863. That little one crossed the bridge. Looks like One Eye failed to stop her. Hidden in the tunnel, there was a black shadow waiting for a chance to sneak attack. After hearing the reminder from its companion in front of it, it coldly snorted with a little disdain. That one-eyed guy always thought he was smart. He deserved to die. With his pitiful little cleverness, once the plan he came up with was seen through, it would be a dead end for him. The mirror room corridor wasn't a must-kill location. In this Spirit Beast Hall, acting alone was the most fatal. Keep a close eye on her. When that little one comes over, I'll lure her into the dead house. Once I come out, activate the mechanism. The person in front immediately nodded, understood. We've cooperated with this ambush tactic more than 100 times. There's definitely no problem. The Reaper Mantis flew over. The shadow that was hiding in the dark flashed. Its ferocious mouth spat out a dark green venom. Wherever the venom touched, smoke came out and corroded everything. But the sneak attack was ineffective. The cautious Reaper Mantis dodged it easily. Ball! After dodging the sneak attack, the Reaper Mantis threw out an energy ball. Through the weak light of the energy ball, she saw a slender black shadow entering a tunnel. She didn't know what mechanism it triggered, but one of the boxes at the bridgehead moved away. The bridge behind the Reaper Mantis quickly retracted. Looks like there's a mechanism here too. I have to get control of it, or else I won't be able to go back. The Reaper Mantis pondered for a moment before giving chase. It tailed the skinny black figure in front of it and chased after it into the passageway. After about a minute, there was another sound. The broken bridge that was retracted rumbled as it extended its steel rails and reconnected itself. The one that stayed outside saw that the plan was a success and was overjoyed. As long as the mechanism of the dead house was reset, the door could be closed. Once the door was closed, the creatures in the dead house would fall into the death trap and die for sure. It flew to the control handle of the mechanism to close the door and anxiously waited for its companion to come out. According to the plan, its companion would come out within 10 seconds after the bridge mechanism was reset. The opponent would be a few seconds or even 10 seconds later and be locked in the dead house. As long as it pulled the control handle, the mission issued by the Toad King would be completed. 10, 9, 8. Normally, his companions would come out after 7 or 8 seconds, but for some reason, they were a little slower today. The unexpected turn of events made the guy outside very anxious. A slender shadow flashed by the door. The man who had been waiting anxiously recognized this as his partner. He immediately pulled down the control handle, and in an instant, the door of the House of Death closed. Usually, they would take turns to draw lots to lure their enemies. As the party who risked their lives, they would get more shares. During the process of collecting the corpses as evidence, both parties agreed that they must participate together in case someone tried to monopolize the corpses and activated the trap. Because the withered snake and the big-eyed monkey cooperated happily and trusted each other, they used the House of Death and their tacit understanding to kill almost 100 strong enemies, even though they weren't very strong. The big-eyed monkey was carrying an old and dirty corpse bag in his hand. He had to collect some evidence to report back. More importantly, he had to clean up all the corpses in the House of Death before he could trick his next prey. Otherwise, the House of Death would be full of corpses. Even a fool would be suspicious. That's strange. Why aren't there any corpses? Could it be that they were all incinerated? The big-eyed monkey searched for a long time, but couldn't find any corpses. What's so strange about that? That little thing was originally small, and its bones were all incinerated, so it's definitely possible. Or maybe it was blown to some corner by the firestorm. You have to know that once the door of the House of Death is closed, the firestorm inside will engulf everything. I remember that there were 2 mammoths that came here once, and their corpses were also blown thousands of meters away by the firestorm. Let's look around again. If we really can't find it, then forget it. The withered snake didn't care. It saw with its own eyes that the little thing was behind it. Even when the House of Death was closed, she didn't have time to leave. Rumble. A familiar sound came from afar. The withered snake and the big-eyed monkey looked at each other in confusion. What was going on? It sounded like the sound of a bridge being reconnected. Oh no! Once the bridge was reconnected, the control handle outside the House of Death would be pulled down. If someone pulled the handle, the door would close. The consequences would be unimaginable. The big-eyed monkey and the withered snake couldn't care less about looking for corpses anymore. They ran out frantically. When the 2 of them rushed to the bridge control lever inside the House of Death, they were shocked to find that the Reaper Mantis was waiting there with a smile. Its eyes looked as if it had seen an old friend. It even waved its hand affectionately, as if to say, "Long time no see," to the 2 friends. It also seemed to be saying, "Hurry up. Stop it." The withered snake and the big-eyed monkey understood what pulling down the bridge control lever meant. If this little thing ran outside and pulled down the control lever of the House of Death's door, any life that was trapped inside would be turned into ashes. The withered snake and the big-eyed monkey used all their strength to pounce on the Reaper Mantis. However, their crazy fatal attacks all missed. With a flash, the Reaper Mantis shadow disappeared, and its real body appeared at the door of the House of Death 3,000 meters away. If it hadn't condensed a faintly glowing energy ball in its hand, the withered snake and the big-eyed monkey wouldn't have discovered its existence. Both the withered snake and the big-eyed monkey were scared out of their wits. They had never thought that the door of the House of Death would become the door to their hell one day. Even though they sprinted with all their strength, the big-eyed monkey, who was slightly slower, was anxious. Big-eyed monkey, who was slightly slower, was anxious. If he fell behind, he would definitely die. It acted quickly and grabbed the withered snake's tail, hoping that its companion would help it. Even if it was just a little faster, it was better than nothing. The withered snake was furious. It had already wanted to run away from the House of Death, but now the big-eyed monkey was dragging it down. Without hesitation, it swung its tail and hit the big-eyed monkey on the ground. Then, using the force, it shot forward at high speed. With the help of its companion's body, the withered snake's speed increased by a little. It was confident that it could escape from the House of Death in 3 more seconds. 3, 2. When it was about 100 meters away from the door of the House of Death, the door of the House of Death instantly closed as the Reaper Mantis waved goodbye with a smile. The withered snake hit the door in despair. It was only 1 second away, just one door away, but it was the difference between heaven and earth, the difference between life and death. A firestorm erupted and swept through the entire House of Death. No. The withered snake and the big-eyed monkey, who had used this trick to kill almost 100 beasts, howled miserably as they were burnt to ashes in the flames. In front of the control handle, there was a beast that looked like a flea, laughing with its ugly mouth. Its small eyes revealed a kind of pleasure of revenge. The mission that the poisonous bee king gave me has been completed. Because of your trust and cooperation, I have avenged my great enemy. The 2 enemies, the withered snake and the big-eyed monkey, have also been turned into ashes. I will take my leave now. Please continue to work hard. The flea bowed respectfully to the Reaper Mantis, then jumped onto the bridge and quickly left the Spirit Beast Hall. Do your best. The Reaper Mantis waved goodbye to the flea who came to help. After successfully killing the withered snake and the big-eyed monkey, she encouraged herself and continued to advance to the 2nd and 3rd floor. She wanted to get the best brand, even if there was no one to help. However, to a smart person, sometimes the enemy was the best companion. The help of an enemy was no less than that of a companion. You must continue to work hard. You are the best. The Reaper Mantis, who had been reborn as a human, clenched her fists cutely and flew to the next floor with a face full of determination. Although the test was very difficult and the various traps were very dangerous, they did not scare her at all. Furthermore, this dangerous Spirit Beast Hall was also the best place to train and grow. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.